Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku was the one who captured Bakugo's heart part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story Laughing Wolf 78 from Wattpad. So let's start the video. Izuku stood in the bedroom of his childhood home packing up what was left of his room. The greenet bopped his head along with the music blasting through the speakers as he moved steadily around the room, dancing alone in the nearly empty space to the beats of random songs. To say this happy emerald-eyed boy was excited was an understatement. Izuku Midoriya was ecstatic. Ecstatic about his new adventure that was getting ready to unfold. And this adventure was starting his first year of college, majoring in photography. Although the greenet was anxious, he was hoping this new chapter of his life would finally open up new doors for him. Izuku had always been known as the shy kid, the one who was hardly noticed. He was quiet and reserved, had done well in school with grades, was loved by teachers, but nerdy to students. He never went to parties or dances, never even came close to getting into any kind of trouble. He had anxiety issues, making him shelter himself most of his 19 years of life. He had surrounded himself with books and reading, and developed a deep love for taking pictures. The shy greenet was hardly ever found without a camera in his hands, taking shots of landscapes, sunsets, people too on occasion. The pretty-eyed greenet hadn't even really dated much. He had a few dates here and there, but never a real relationship. His friend group was small, even or non-existent outside of his best friend Shoto, who had been friends with Izuku since middle school. Shoto Todoroki was a year older than Izuku and was in his second year of the same college the greenet would now be attending. Shoto was one of the few people Izuku had always fully trusted enough to let his guard down around and be himself. The bicolored male had always looked out for the greenet, knowing how Izuku had always been so shy and nervous. The heterochromia-eyed male was currently stepping into Izuku's room to help him move his things into the dorms. Shoto smiled seeing his best friend dancing around his room with packing tape in his hand. He stood in the doorway with pocketed hands, chuckling at the scene. "Wow, Midoriya, where you been hiding those moves all these years?" he teased. Izuku turned quickly, an instant blush covering his cheeks as he met his friend's teasing gaze. The greenet rolled his eyes, throwing the tape he was holding in the direction of the snickering male. "Shut up, Sho, and you've seen me dance before," Izuku defended with a grin. Shoto smiled. "Yeah, but I don't really think you dancing around the living room after you beat me at a game of Uno yelling, 'Oh yeah' in your face. When we were 13 counts," Izuku giggled at the memory. "Totally counts, and don't be jealous because I'm better at both dancing and Uno than you are," the greenet said, sticking his tongue out as he picked up a box, carrying it downstairs out to Shoto's car. It didn't take long before the last of Izuku's things had been packed up in Shoto's black Jeep. Izuku walked back into the house, seeing his mother hand him his backpack with tears threatening her soft green eyes. The greenet felt his heart hurt for her. He knew him leaving was going to be HRD on his mother. It had only been the two of them since Izuku's father had taken off on them when he was 5. He stepped forward, wrapping her in a tight hug. "I'll miss you, Mom, but don't worry, I'll call and visit as much as I can." Inko smiled into her son's shoulder as her tears dampened his white t-shirt. "Oh Izuku, I'll miss you so much, but I am so proud of you. I know you are going to do wonderfully. I hope you make a ton of new friends, open yourself up to new people and things. Izuku, don't let fear hold you back," she told him softly as she pulled away, looking into his emerald eyes. Her gaze landed on Shoto, who was standing behind the greenet. She smiled at him. "Shoto, take care of my boy like always." "Of course I will," he assured with a slight smile. The greenet said one last goodbye, then the two were in Shoto's car headed towards the university. They made small talk for a while on the 2-hour drive until Izuku started zone out. He rested his head against the window, watching the fall scenery rush by the window. The greenet was starting to feel his anxiety rise the closer they got. He was so ready for this, but at the same time he was absolutely terrified. Izuku was chewing his nails when the sound of his friend next to him broke him from his thoughts. "You okay over there? I know this is all going to be a big change for you, but I really think it's going to be good for you, Midoriya, and I'll be there to help you out whenever you feel overwhelmed," Shoto reassured. He had really wanted his friend to hopefully branch out this year, make new friends, maybe find someone special, do all things Izuku had always shied away from in high school. Bright emerald orbs landed on his friend and the 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 smiled. I'm good show. I mean, yeah, I won't lie, I'm getting a little nervous. You know, meeting new people isn't a strong point for me, but I'm really excited about school and the photography program at the university. It's one of the top ones in Japan. Shoto looked over and smiled with an eye roll. Yes, you've told me about 100 times, but promise me you won't shut yourself away and hide behind a camera lens the whole year. Izuku laughed softly as he raised his camera, aimed it at the bicolored male next to him, snapping a series of pictures in quick succession. Yup, got it show. The two laughed in unison as Todoroki shook his head at his friend behind the lens. Not even 2 hours back on campus grounds and Katsuki Bakugo was already annoyed to be there. He leaned back against the hood of his black Camaro with orange racing stripes as Kirishima dug his bags out of the trunk. Bro, did you see if I put my red bag in here when you picked me up, man? I don't remember if I packed it or not, the redhead yelled from behind the car. Katsuki rolled his eyes, taking a drag from the cigarette he just lit. It's not my job to keep track of your SHT. You're lucky I even picked your butt up, Katsuki snapped. Kirishima poked his head out from behind the trunk to look at the back of his annoyed friend. The redhead had been friends with the moody blonde since high school. The laid-back, fun-loving male was used to this kind of behavior. He laughed as he called out to the explosive blonde. Baku bro, what's with the mood already, man? That doesn't usually kick in till at least the second day. Besides, aren't you usually on the prowl for some new cutie by now? Katsuki scoffed as he took another drag from the cigarette in his fingers. Truth was, he was restless already. What his friend said was true. By now the blonde had normally picked up a date or two just carrying his stuff into the dorm. It was easy, too easy. Katsuki was tall, blonde, built, a football player, and had a bad boy attitude for days. He had a bad mouth and a worse temper. All which seemed to for some reason attract both males and females to him in droves, something the blonde had always been blatantly cocky about. But it never mattered how many were attracted or how many threw themselves at him. No one ever made it close enough to stick around for very long, no matter how hard they may try. Katsuki dropped them like a bad habit before they knew what was happening once he felt them trying to stay. No one had ever even gotten remotely close to his heart or laying a claim on it, something he was perfectly fine with, or was he? Lately it had all become so boring to him. The chase wasn't fun any longer, and none of the extras around him were even worth one. The blonde's attention was pulled suddenly to a Philomere voice coming towards him, and the redhead, who was now standing next to Katsuki with a grin, seeing another friend of the tier coming across the parking lot with a duffel bag over his shoulder. Hey losers, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 called with a grin, setting his bag down and giving the two a hand slap and a fist bump. Hey bro, welcome back, man, Kirishima greeted. Hey and watch who you're calling a loser, soy sauce, Katsuki smirked. 𝐒𝐮𝐴 chuckled. Good to see you're moody as ever, dude. You guys have been here a few hours already, right? You must have a date already, right, Kat? The raven-eyed male said with a smirk. Katsuki rolled his eyes, feeling irritation growing. No, Yui, not interested in any of these same worn-out extras, the blonde said, annoyance laced in his tone. Kirishima laughed, then his eyes saw a black Jeep pull into the parking lot that he instantly recognized. Hey man, Shoto's here. 3 sets of eyes followed the Jeep as it parked a few spots down from them. They watched the bicolored-haired male step from his vehicle, but then someone else stepped out. This made a certain blonde raise an eyebrow as the short 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐴𝐴 came into view of sharp red eyes. Dude, who's that? 𝐒𝐮𝐴𝐴 asked curiously. I'm not sure, man. I've never seen him before. I definitely remember him, Kirishima said as all eyes were still on the two as Todoroki pulled a bag from the back, handing it to the 𝐒𝐮𝐴𝐴, who was laughing at something. Katsuki kept a steady gaze on this new curiosity. Well, let's find out who he is. Shoto, come say hi, man, Kirishima yelled, making Todoroki look over and nod his head slightly. The 3 watched Shoto lean in and say something to the 𝐒𝐮𝐴𝐴, who had snapped his head in the direction of Kirishima's call. The much shorter male looked up at his friend and gave him a nervous nod that much was clear. You think they're dating? 𝐒𝐮𝐴𝐴 whispered. Katsuki eyed the two a few spots down, and for some unknown reason he sure as hoped they weren't dating. He had no idea why that sudden thought had rushed its way to the front of his mind as soon as the words left 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽's mouth. I mean, he just laid his eyes on him and had no clue who the hell he was, but what he did know is when he had caught a glimpse of the way that little ht across the lot had smiled at something half and half said, it made a feeling spring into his chest that he wasn't even sure he had ever felt or even knew what it was, but his interest was now fully piqued. Shoto made his way to the 3 teammates he played football with a 𝗏𝐻𝐿 tagging closely right behind him. "Hey guys," Shoto said calmly as he fist-bumped a happy redhead. "Hey to-do, good to see you bro, and who's this?" Kirishima asked as he grinned wide at the 𝗏𝐻𝐿 who was nervously eyeing the trio of football players in front of him. Shoto laughed softly seeing Izuku's nervousness. "This is my best friend Izuku Midoriya. He's a freshman this year. We grew up together. Midoriya, this is Ijiro Kirishima, Hanta 𝐶𝐻 and Katsuki Bakugo," Todoroki introduced as he pointed to each of the 3. Kirishima flashed a wide smile looking at Izuku. "Hi man. Like he said, I'm Kirishima, but you can call me Kiri or Ijiro if you like." Izuku bit his cheek as he tried to force his anxiety down. "Hi, it's nice to meet you, and you may call me either Izuku or Midoriya. I'm not really fussy," he stumbled out in a soft voice. Kirishima's eyes softened. He liked this little 𝗏𝐻𝐿 right away. "Awesome, how about Mido? Dude, we're gonna be tight, I can already tell." The redhead beamed as he threw an arm around his neck, making the 𝗏𝐻𝐿 tense immediately. But Izuku couldn't help a small smile at the energetic redhead even if he was in his space. Katsuki let his eyes wander over the smaller male now that he was closer. He was much shorter than the blonde 5 feet 7 inches or so by his guess. He was thin but not scrawny, more tone. His hair was a mix of waves and curls, dark green in color, slightly messy but definitely not in a bad way. His eyes caught the blonde's attention and caught it hard. They were the deepest shade of pure emerald green he had ever seen. Deep dark lashes made them stand out even more. And well, this little effer had freckles dotting his cheeks that flashed crimson anytime he made eye contact. He had on faded blue jeans and just a plain white t-shirt with black Vans. "Oi, shitty hair, get the F off him, he's cringing, you idiot, can't you see that?" Katsuki snapped his eyes on the uncomfortable 𝗏𝐻𝐿. Emerald eyes landed on fiery red as Katsuki took in his movements. "Bro, I'm just being friendly man," the redhead said as he took a step back. 𝐒𝐻𝐿 snickered as he stepped forward. "Hey, nice to meet you Midoriya. I'm 𝐒𝐻𝐿." Izuku nodded at him shyly as he took a subconscious step behind Shoto's shoulder, something he had always done when he was nervous. Katsuki rose an amused brow as he titled his head to the side so he could see the hidden 𝗏𝐻𝐿 who had now caught his full attention. Izuku made eye contact with the intimidating blonde and then looked down quickly, flashing a slight shade of pink. Katsuki smirked as he stood peering over Shoto's shoulder with hands in the pockets of his ripped black jeans. He stepped behind Todoroki so the 𝗏𝐻𝐿 had no place to hide. "Are you hiding from me?" the blonde smirked. Izuku felt his face heat up with fire. "And no, I'm not hiding." The 𝗏𝐻𝐿 immediately cursed himself for sounding like an idiot while he was in fact hiding behind his best friend. Katsuki smirked again. "Pay no attention to Bakugo Midoriya, he's in butt," Shoto said looking at the blonde. Katsuki shrugged, tossing a glare at Todoroki. "He's not wrong, I am," the blonde said, his eyes landing back on the shy 𝗏𝐻𝐿 as the blonde winked, making freckled cheeks dance with deep crimson. That unfamiliar feeling sprung back up inside Katsuki's chest when he watched the colors spread across those freckles. Todoroki rolled his eyes as he grabbed his bag and one of Izuku's as the 𝗏𝐻𝐿 pulled his backpack on his shoulder. "We're going to get Izuku settled into his room, we'll see you guys later." "Yeah man, we're going to do the same, maybe we can all hang later." "Yo Mido, let me know where your room is, okay dude," Kirishima said as they all headed towards the doors of the dorms. Izuku turned his head to the side, looking over his shoulder at the redhead as they walked. He flashed a slight smile and nodded, but while he was looking over his shoulder he hadn't seen the sidewalk coming up and tripped, falling backwards because of the weight of his pack. He closed his eyes waiting for an impact that never came. Instead, when he peeked his eyes open he was met with fire-red orbs looking down at him. Then he realized Katsuki had caught him. "Watch where you're going Freckles," the blonde smirked as he locked onto wide emerald eyes. Izuku felt his heartbeat pick up, feeling himself being held by the large fiery male who smelled amazing. Izuku thought right then as his scent flooded his senses. His face was a shade of red he didn't think it was possible to achieve till now. Thank you Kaken, Katsuki raised a brow with chuckle. What the hell did you call me? Izuku thought he might die of embarrassment right now on this sidewalk before he ever even got to see his DMN room, let alone take a photo for his first class. The green-it covered his face with both hands as he stuttered out a string of apologies. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm horrible at pronouncing names. When Shoto said your first name, that's what it sounded like to me. But that's definitely not it, huh? Oh god, I'm sorry. Katsuki watched the train wreck in front of him, stumbling out word vomit. He couldn't help the smile creeping across his face. This little 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐷 was a mess. No, that's not it at all, not even thing close, but I'll tell you what, Freckles, that's what it's gonna be for you now though. Just for the record though, it's Katsuki. Emerald orbs landed on fiery red, and the green-it was sure he'd never seen any shade of red that could compare to the orbs looking at him with amusement. He quickly looked away, feeling like he might burn alive under the fiery gaze. Midoriya, let's go, now that Bakugo kept you from killing yourself on the pavement, Shoto said, holding the door open for his friend. Izuku's eyes snapped to his friend. Alright, show coming, the green-it said as he hurried to Todoroki. He turned one more time once he reached the door, looking back at the fiery blonde standing there, hands pocketed with a smirk. He bit his cheek, then rushed to catch up with his best friend who was already through the door. Kirishima and 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐷 stepped up beside Katsuki, who for some reason unknown to even him was still watching the green-it till he disappeared from view. No interested in anyone, my butt, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐷 snickered. Katsuki shot him daggers, clicking his tongue. He's really cute, right? Kirishima beamed. The blonde cut his eyes over at the redhead, feeling a growl that wanted to rise in his chest. Why the F was he so interested in this little 𝐒𝐻𝐷 so soon? He asked himself as he walked into the dorm with the two extras rambling on about something he wasn't listening to at all. A sound suddenly caught his attention as he turned to see that emerald-eyed little 𝐒𝐻𝐷 laughing softly with half and half while he was getting on the elevator in the direction of no doubt his dorm room. Those emerald orbs caught sight of fiery rubies as the elevator door was slowly closing, and the green-it flashed him a shy smile before he was taken from fiery view. There was that feeling in his chest that was becoming more familiar to the blonde by the minute when this freckled-faced little F.O. was near him. Well, 𝐻T Katsuki Bakugo was intrigued. Things just got very interesting. Izuku flopped down on his freshly made bed in his dorm room while Todoroki was finishing up unpacking some books for the green-it, putting them on a bookshelf in the corner. Izuku was lucky enough to have a room to himself for now, though it could change later in the semester if it got more crowded, but as of now most students on his current floor had private rooms. Shoto's room was 4 doors down from his. The green-it sat chewing the inside of his cheek as he watched his friend, his mind wandering to the blonde he met downstairs just a few hours ago. If he was being honest, he's been thinking about him ever since he looked into those ruby-colored eyes. Hey Sho, the blonde downstairs that I met outside, who is he? Todoroki turned around to look at his friend on the bed. That's Katsuki Bakugo, I told you that outside, or Kaken as you heard it, Shoto said with an amused smile. Crimson flush spread across his cheeks. Ugh, shut up Shoto, don't remind me. I made a complete fool of myself with the stupid name and then the tripping over my own feet, the green-it whined, putting a pillow over his face. Todoroki laughed at his embarrassed friend as he sat on the bed. He didn't seem to mind his new nickname. He told you could call him that. That's pretty shocking. Normally no one would get away with that without a punch to the face. Izuku removed the pillow from his face to look at two-toned eyes. Shoto met his gaze. Why the sudden curiosity about him? Shoto questioned. Izuku shifted his gaze down to his fingers as he twisted a plain sliver band around his middle finger. He wasn't even sure why he was so curious about the blonde. Izuku avoided most people at all cost, but for some reason he felt himself drawn to strong fiery presence Katsuki had given off. I don't really know honestly. He just seemed nice, I guess. A little blunt, but... Izuku left out the part where he thought Katsuki was probably the hottest guy he had ever seen, which was another reason he was so curious about him. Shoto laughed slightly. I don't think nice is a word I would use to describe Bakugo. Kirishima's nice. Izuku thought for a minute. Kirishima was nice. The redhead had made Izuku feel welcome and at ease even if he had surprised him with the arm around his neck. The greenet scrunched his face as he thought. If you wouldn't say that Bakugo is nice, then what would you say he is? Shoto pet a brow at his friend's unwavering interest in his teammate. I answered that outside too when I told you he was an but beside that he's bad-tempered, bad-mouthed, brash, doesn't normally care what he says or how he says it. Your typical bad boy, I guess you could say. Shoto finished with a shrug, standing up looking at some of the greenet's cameras on top of his dresser. Come on Shoto, he can't be only bad, there's got to be more to him than all that, Izuku said softly, unsure why he felt defensive over this stranger he had just met. Todoroki turned to his friend, two-toned eyes met soft emerald. He sighed, not liking where the greenet's interest was headed. Look Midoriya, just be careful around him, okay? He has a reputation for leaving a long line of broken hearts behind him. Izuku's eyes widen. What? I'm not interested in him like that. I was just curious, that's all. The greenet said as blush spread across Freckles. Shoto smirked. Yeah, I see that. I've known you a long time, I know what I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing is you getting insta-crush on that j. Izuku crossed his arms, his eyes narrowed at his friend. That's not true, I'm merely curious. Besides, aren't you the one who wanted me to make friends this year? And aren't you friends with him? Todoroki shrugged, pocketing his hands. I wouldn't necessarily call us friends, we're teammates. I tolerate him, but we bump heads a lot. We just don't see things eye to eye. And yes, I want you to make friends, try Kirishima and 𝗧𝗟𝗘, or even Denki Kaminari, he's another friend of mine on this floor you haven't met yet. Izuku only nodded at his friend, wondering why he was so insistent on the fiery blonde being all bad. Todoroki made his way to the greenet's door. He opened it, but before he exited he turned to his best friend. I'm going to go finish unpacking my stuff. If you need me, you know where I am. And hey Midoriya, I'm serious. Watch yourself around Bakugo. I don't want to see you get hurt. I'll come get you later and we can grab some food together. Okay Sho, thanks for the help. I'll see you later. Shoto nodded, leaving the room, shutting the door behind him. The greenet laid back on his white and dark green striped comforter, letting his mind wander. Was what Shoto said true? Was he crushing on the blonde he had only just met? I mean, yes, he found him insanely attractive, and he smelled like heaven, and good God, he was strong. Izuku could feel that as soon as he caught him in his arms, and those eyes, heaven have mercy, those eyes could burn him alive anytime. Izuku shot up with a groan. See, it was true, he was definitely crushing on someone who he felt was way out of his league, someone his best friend was warning him about left and right. Izuku threw himself back down on his blankets, looking up at the ceiling, his mind still on sharp red rubies. Little did the greenet know the bad boy blonde was only 5 doors down on the other side of the hall, unpacking his own stuff, listening to an annoying redhead who wouldn't shut up about, well, anything. Said redhead was laying across the blonde's bed, air drumming with a pair of drumsticks that he found in one of Katsuki's boxes while he happily rambled on. Bro, how do you think the team will do this year? And what's your class schedule look like? I have advanced chemistry. I have no idea how I even got that, man. I almost burned the chem lab down last year, remember that? Like, what the hell were they thinking giving me that again? Katsuki rolled his eyes as he hung his stuff up in his closet. Annoyance rolling off him in waves. Do you ever shut up? Like for 5 minutes, did you even unpack your SHT yet? Katsuki snapped. Kirishima only laughed at the grumpy blonde. Yeah man, mostly unpacked. 𝗧𝗟𝗘 is supposed to be down in a few minutes, so we can hang. I shot a text to Shoto, but it doesn't look like he read it yet. Maybe he's busy getting Mito situated. I wonder where his room is. Katsuki stopped what he was doing for a minute, the ridiculous nickname for the cute freckled male catching his attention. Honestly, he was wondering the same thing. He wanted to know where his room was too. He wanted to know a lot more than that. He was so intrigued by the shy emerald-eyed male that stole his attention immediately. He was definitely going to have to do something about that, and soon. Izuku was sitting at his desk fiddling with one of his cameras when he heard someone singing loudly in the hallway. Emerald eyes shot to his door while he scrunched his face, the Philomere song swimming in his ears. It was a Queen song, I Want to Break Free to be exact. The greenet had always liked music of every kind, old and new. Izuku stood walking to his door. The greenet was indeed shy, but he was also very curious by nature. He wondered who was outside his doorway signing so carefree. He got his answer when he slowly opened his door a crack and peeped a pretty emerald eye out. His sight landed on a yellow-haired male with what looked like the distinct pattern of a black lightning bolt mixed in on the side of his head. He was in black track breeds with a white stripe down the side, a white t-shirt with a black and white jacket of some kind tied around his waist, a black and white headset on his ears while he belted out the tune blaring from it. It's strange, but it's true, I can't get over the way you love me like you do. But I have to be sure when I walk out that door, oh how I want to. Yellow eyes caught sight of a single emerald one peeking into the hall. Denki stopped mid-song, pulling the headset from his ears, resting it around his neck. A smile came to the yellow-eyed male. Hi there. I'm Denki Kaminari. Who might you be? I don't think I've seen you, though it's hard to tell with you still behind the door and all. Izuku blushed slightly as he opened the door and stepped halfway into the hallway. His mind replaying the name that he is sure he heard. Yes, this must be the guy Shoto told him about. Hi. I'm Izuku Midoriya. And no, we haven't met, I'm a freshman this year. The greenet said softly at the male smiling at him still. Well, I'm happy to meet you, Izuku Midoriya. I'd be happy to show you around or introduce you to some people since you're new and all. Denki offered. He couldn't deny he thought the greenet in front of him was cute and wouldn't mind getting to know him. Meanwhile, Kirishima thought he had heard the sound of one of their friends singing down the hall like always. He opened Katsuki's door, peering out when his eyes landed on, in fact, their bro Denki, who was talking to the greenet he and Bakugo were just wondering about. Kirishima grinned. Well, we don't have to figure out where Mido is, looks like Kami found him first. The redhead informed, his eyes still down the hall. Red eyes snapped to the door when Katsuki heard that. He slammed the book he was putting away harshly into the bookcase and made his way to the door. The blonde pushed the door open wide, stepping out into the hall. A sharp ruby gaze landed on the two males 5 doors down. He saw that little shitty greenet who had stolen his attention leaning back on his doorframe with his hands behind his back, and that dunce leaned into him a little to DMN close. He watched pink dust freckled cheeks at something Denki said. Katsuki's eyes narrowed. The F was this dunce doing exactly? Oh, thank you for the offer. I do know my way around a little and I know some people. Well, kind of. Shoto Todoroki is my best friend. I also met Kirishima and Siro and Kaken, Izuku shyly told the male whose eyes never left him. Denki titled his head to the side slightly in confusion. Well, I know Todoroki, Kirishima and Siro really well, but who's Kaken? Izuku's face surged with deep crimson, suddenly remembering that actually wasn't the fiery blonde's name but one that he had stupidly spit from his mouth. Great Izuku, make yourself look like a complete idiot 3 times in one day, you're off to a great start, the greenet thought to himself as he clamped down on the inside of his cheek. He was getting ready to stumble out a response, no doubt an idiotic one, when a loud deep voice was heard coming up the hallway. Me. I'm Kaken. Emerald orbs went wide, shooting down the hall, meeting fiery rubies as the blonde closed the distance, stepping up to the greenet leaning back on the wall with his arms crossed. Once he got there, a smirk on his lips. Hi Freckles, looks like we're neighbors. I'm 5 doors down. Izuku flashed a shade of crimson, trying hard to meet that fiery gaze. Oh, that's good to know. Hi again, Kaken. The blonde couldn't help but grin at the childlike nickname that rolled off this freckled cutie's tongue like he'd been saying it for years. Wait, you're Kaken? You never let anyone call you anything other than your name, even then you hardly let us use Katsuki, and we've known you since high school. Hell, you almost tore Kiri's face off the first time he called you Baku bro, Denki questioned with a ped brow, his arms folded across his chest. Katsuki turned his gaze on him, glaring daggers. Yes, I'm Kaken. And what the F is it to you, dunce? Denki grinned. So you won't mind if we start calling you Kaken? Katsuki's ruby eyes narrowed, a growl in his throat. I didn't say that. He can use it, you SHTS can't. It's really not that hard to understand. Suddenly a happy redhead popped up next to the group. Mido. Hey man. Now I know where you are, I'm on this floor too. Right next to To-Do. I see you met Denki. The enthusiastic male practically sang. Izuku smiled softy. Hi Kirishima. Cool that you're right next to Shoto. I won't forget that way. Kirishima grinned at the smaller male who was unsure of what to do with all this attention at once. Another voice joined the group, one Izuku knew well. The ever-calm voice of his best friend. What's happening over here? Todoroki said, a light smile on his face as he stepped up next to Izuku. Hey Shoto. Where you been hiding this cutie man? Denki said, winking at Izuku, making his face flame. Katsuki straightened himself from the wall. A fire-filled glare in his eyes. Katsuki wasn't stupid, he knew exactly what this dunce effer was doing. He was trying to make a move on this little freckled SHT, and that was not sitting well with the fiery blonde at all, which he has to admit to himself was strange behavior for him because normally Katsuki Bakugo did not give 2 Fs, he'd just move on to the next that was waiting in line for him, but this. Something about this shy greenet who currently looked like he wanted to hide was different. Something was very different and he wanted to figure out what it was and why. Shoto smiled at the yellow-eyed male. I haven't been hiding him, we've been friends for years, he's just always been a little on the shy side. Well, I was just offering to show him around so he doesn't feel so lost. Denki grinned. Katsuki rolled his eyes, clenching his jaw. I can show Freckles around. In fact, I was just getting ready to go out and grab food. You can come with me if you want, Katsuki said, looking at the greenet who looked so uneasy right now that it actually bothered the blonde, what the actual F was with him lately and giving a DMN about things. Izuku's emerald orbs landed on the blonde's intense red ones. He blushed slightly but forced himself to stay focused on the eyes peering at him. He didn't hate the idea. He actually wouldn't mind going with this mysterious to him blonde who was drawing him in like a moth to a flame, but before he could commit to the idea, Shoto interrupted his thoughts. No, we already made plans to get food. I'll show him more of campus on our way. Katsuki's sharp red eyes snapped to two-toned ones, both glaring at the other. What the F, half and half, he's old enough to decide who he wants to go out and eat with. Katsuki felt his temper rise. He knows dimmin well this candy cane wannabe is trying to keep him away from Freckles. Yes, he is, but like I said before, we already had plans. Izuku's eyes were shifting back and forth nervously between the two. He didn't want a fight to break out, but he was a little annoyed that Shoto had spoken for him. He was shy but not incompetent. Kirishima was eyeing the situation. He felt the tension. He knows Shoto and Katsuki don't often get along, but he wants to get to know this little greenet who looks like he wants to vomit from nerves at the moment, so he comes up with a solution. Hey bros, why don't we all go? We can get food and all walk Mido around campus together. Kirishima looked at Izuku with a grin, who seemed to look back at him with relief, showing his own smile at the redhead's idea. That sounds like a good idea, Kiri, the greenet said softly. Katsuki scoffed. This was not what he had in mind, and he didn't even want to go now. Count me the F out then, I don't feel like hanging out with you extras tonight. Izuku looked up at him quickly, the movement making the blonde look down into emerald eyes that looked disappointed. Something in the blonde's stomach twisted. He didn't like that look. The F was going on inside him all of a sudden. Oh, you don't want to come with us? Izuku sheepishly asked. He couldn't believe he had even opened his mouth to ask. It was so out of character for the shy greenet. Katsuki only stared for a minute before clicking his tongue and running a hand through blonde spikes. I just have a lot of unpacking to do, Freckles, that's all, the blonde said, looking into those eyes that held his attention so well, hoping not to see the disappointment still. But it was definitely still visible, maybe even slightly more so. But I'll see you later then, I guess, the greenet said, looking away. I'll grab my jacket and meet you guys downstairs, Izuku said, disappearing behind his door. Katsuki gave Todoroki one last glare before he turned on his heel and went back to his room, slamming the door behind him. He flopped down HRD on his back, fingers laced behind his head, his mind trying to figure out what the F was going on here. He closed his eyes a minute, but as soon as he did, those disappointed green eyes danced through his mind. Ruby red eyes opened again. Why the hell did he care about how this little 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐻 felt? For F's sake, he didn't even know him yet. Yet still something seemed to be drawing him towards him. He wanted to know more about those emerald eyes and flushed cheeks. He might have accomplished some of that tonight if that half and half PP hadn't stepped in, and what the F was with that. He was definitely going to have a talk with that F tomorrow at practice. Katsuki growls under his breath. Getting up frustrated, he heads outside the dorm to smoke a cigarette. He leans back on the wall, taking a long drag from the lit cigarette in his hand, his mind still slightly frustrated by these feelings that are creeping in. He suddenly hears a 𝐒𝐼𝐼𝐼𝐼 sickening sweet voice. "Kami Utsushimi," he groans, seeing her walk his way. Katsuki Bakugo. Looking good as ever, he cuts his eyes at her as she steps up beside him. He dated her once. Okay, dated is a strong word. He took her out once and made out with her twice, and then he broke things off without another word. Why this annoying extra is standing next to him right now is beyond him. "The F you want?" Katsuki snapped, bothered by her presence instantly. "Katsuki. Why so rude, babe? I just wanted to say hi and tell you how hot you're looking this year." She purred at him, wrapping her arm around him and leaning into him. Izuku suddenly popped out of the dorm doors, his eyes looking for the group he was supposed to meet. Instead, though, they landed on Katsuki and some strange girl who was pressed against him. The greenet felt his heart drop as fiery red eyes met his own. A spark of courage hit the greenet, courage that was fueled by the hit of anger that he felt towards the scene. "Oh, now I see what you're really busy with," the greenet said softly, though it was laced with something else. Katsuki's eyes widened slightly, knowing how this looked. He pushed off the wall abruptly, pushing the handsy extra away from him as he took off down the sidewalk after a pretty dim and fast little Freckles. "Wait a minute. That's not fing true." Izuku kept walking, his heart racing, his anxiety surging. Why did he even say that? What on earth does it even matter? He's not in a relationship with this blonde chasing him down that he literally met hours ago. He shouldn't feel jealous. Wait, was he jealous? He stopped short at that thought, giving just enough time for a strong hand to land on his shoulder and turn him around. "First, how the F are you so fast? Second, that's not the F what I was busy with. I really am unpacking. You can come see if you don't believe me. I was outside smoking when she put her claws on me, not the other way around." The blonde breathed, trying to catch his breath. But why the F was he even explaining himself to this nerd? Why did he feel the need to F if this little HD hadn't made him feel panicked, like he had been caught doing something he shouldn't? "It's none of my business anyway, Kaken. It's fine," Izuku said, sheepish, his eyes on the sidewalk. The blonde raised a brow. When the word fine is used, it's never good. "I'm fine, it's fine," a singular fine with nothing else added, all fing bad. And no, maybe it really isn't any of this nerd's business what he was doing, but he'd be lying if he said he didn't kinda want it to be. Holy F, what is happening? "Okay, but still, I don't want you running off thinking SHT that isn't true. We just met and you're getting the wrong thing idea already." Izuku raised his eyes, finally looking into fiery rubies. Both quiet for a beat. The greenet was getting ready to say something when Kirishima's voice broke the words on his tongue. "Yomido, you coming?" Izuku and Katsuki snapped their head in the direction of the call. I have to go, Kaken. I'll see you around." Before Katsuki could say anything, the greenet was off, hurrying down the walk towards a grinning redhead and the rest of the extras. The blonde cursed under his breath, watching him disappear from sight. F this little SHT. It didn't matter what he thought anyways, but why did it then? 3 days. It's been 3 days since that little freckle-faced nerd left Katsuki standing on the sidewalk without finishing the conversation they were having. Katsuki Bakugo does not get left on the sidewalk. He leaves shitty extras there, but that little effer was managing to flip the tables on him lately in a lot of areas. The blonde was sitting outside at a picnic table with his math book open, a pencil in his hand as he chewed the eraser end of it, his eyes looking off into the distance, his thoughts on everything except the work in front of him. In the 3 days that had followed that little misunderstanding that night, he hadn't even really seen Izuku. Classes had started, he had practices, and when he didn't, the greenet just seemed to keep hidden from view. Izuku was coming up the path by the university, yellow backpack over one shoulder, his camera in his hand, snapping random pictures as he walked along the tree-lined sidewalk. The autumn sun was shining, making the deep fall colors of the leaves illuminate like neon lights of yellow, orange, and red. The greenet was doing well. He loved his classes, had made a few friends like Kirishima, Siro, and Denki. He'd even snagged a part-time job at the school's university store where they sold textbooks, school apparel, pens, pencils, snacks, etc. He would be starting that in a few days. He raised his camera looking through the lens, aiming it at a huge tree that was in full orange fall color when something else in the viewfinder caught his attention. He felt his heart rate pick up. He zoomed in, seeing familiar blonde Spikes sitting at a picnic table in a black and white university football jacket. He snapped a picture quickly. He hasn't seen the fiery blonde since the awkward encounter outside the dorm the night that Katsuki insisted he misunderstood what he had seen. Just because the greenet hadn't seen the blonde doesn't mean his thoughts weren't on him, quite the opposite. It seemed fiery rubies took up a lot of space in his mind, even if he didn't really know why. He wondered since that night if what Shoto had said was true, if this fiery blonde was nothing more than bad boy who shuffled through hearts like a deck of cards, leaving a trail of pain and destruction in his wake. Izuku didn't know much about relationships, but the way he was so easily drawn to Katsuki, he knew he could definitely lose himself quickly in feelings that might land him a broken heart, something he didn't think he wanted to deal with or even know if he could. Yet suddenly he realized his stupid feet had just carried him right towards this heartbreaker, and he was now looking over his shoulder at the math paper in front of the blonde. What the hell, Izuku? Weren't you just thinking it might be a bad thing to get near this hot, ticking time bomb? You have number 8W wrong. You need to reverse the top two numbers. Stupid mouth. Red rubies snapped to soft emeralds of a freckled face that was dominating his thoughts lately. Well, look who the F it is. Freckles, you shouldn't sneak up on me like that. You never know what I might do, Katsuki said with a smirk that made the greenet flush instantly. Sorry, Katsuki grinned. I didn't say I minded, and I got this problem wrong, huh? The greenet looked at the math paper and nodded. Yes, and this one, same thing as 8, you just have to reverse the numbers on the top, Izuku said softly as he reached down, pointing to the equation. Katsuki followed his finger, then looked up into emerald orbs with a smile, tugging. You really are a nerd, Freckles, but thanks, Izuku smiled timidly. You're welcome, and I guess I am a little on the nerdy side, he mumbled, looking away. Katsuki chuckled. Don't make it sound like a bad thing, it's part of what makes you right. Nothing wrong with that. Izuku snapped his eyes back to rubies in slight amazement. No one had ever told him anything like that. His nerdy side had always been picked apart by his classmates when he was in school. No one ever made it sound like it was a good thing until right now, especially not someone like Katsuki. He felt his heart skip as he held onto a fiery gaze. You can sit down, you know, Katsuki said, patting the seat beside him. Izuku nodded, taking a seat somewhat nervously next to the fiery blonde. Katsuki noticed the camera the greenet had set on the table. He nodded his head towards it. So, photography, huh? What made you want to major in that? Izuku smiled softly, his eyes on his camera as he spoke. Well, I dunno. As you can tell, I'm kinda shy, maybe even awkward, so I don't mind losing myself behind a lens, I guess. I can hide there, it's like my safe place in a way. And I like to capture things other people might not really see for themselves till I show them from my view so they can see it from an angle maybe they didn't see. He said a bit shyly. Katsuki watched every word from the greenet. He rose a brow, a frown suddenly tugging at his lips. He didn't like the fact that this little SHT wanted to hide, and for the life of him, he couldn't figure out why he wanted to. He didn't even like that Freckles here thought he was awkward. He was shy, yeah, but it wasn't in a bad way. It was cute, the kind of shy that made him want to protect this little nerd from anything he was scared of. Those emerald eyes and freckled cheeks should definitely not be hidden, they should be showed off. When Katsuki hadn't said anything, Izuku looked over at him, finally, almost scared of the reaction he might see. Katsuki was staring right back at him. He cleared his throat suddenly. Show me some of your pictures. Izuku blinked at him a few times. Only teachers, his mother, and sometimes Shoto were the only ones who ever wanted to see his photos. Katsuki smirked. What's wrong, Freckles? You got something to hide on there? Naked pics and itty, he teased, watching deep crimson take over fair skin. What? Oh my gosh, no, Kakin. What the heck? Why would you say that? The greenet protested, putting a hand over his face. Katsuki's smirk turned into a grin, then a full-on laugh at the reaction. Maybe I said it because I like to see those freckles turn the color they are right now. Or maybe I said it because I wonder if it's true. Everyone has a freaky side, Freckles. The blonde teased, smirking as that impossibly dark crimson got even darker. What? I don't. Oh, I bet that's not true, nerd, or you just haven't discovered it yet. I bet you could like things you never knew you wanted. Katsuki practically purred, and the greenet suddenly forgot where the hell he was for a minute while he got caught up in fire teasing rubies. There was a few beats of silence as Ruby and Emerald locked onto each other while the greenet's mind raced, until the teasing blonde spoke again. I think I might be right. I mean, you still haven't shown me what's on that camera, he smirked. Izuku came back to earth, shaking his head, rolling his eyes, picking up his camera. Here, I'll show you then. Katsuki leaned over, shoulder to shoulder with the small greenet so he could see the screen, the closeness making the greenet almost squeak as he got hit with a wave of the blonde's scent that he had smelled that first day. What was it anyways? Camp firey, outside at night after a hot summer day, earthy but warm. He couldn't put his finger on it, but my God, was it effective. He scrolled through the pictures. There was some of the autumn trees and some of a lake the greenet liked to walk by. There was one Katsuki really liked. It was of raindrops rolling down a window with the city lights shining through them. There was even one of a single raindrop on a deep red leaf that the blonde couldn't figure out he had managed to capture. There was close-up shots of the moon coming through the dark night clouds. It was actually appealing. Then he noticed the last picture that Izuku had actually forgotten he had taken, but when the greenet realized that it was the one he had snapped of the blonde next to him, he quickly turned the screen off, but it was too late. A large smirk made its way to Katsuki's mouth. You stalking me, Freckles? I mean, all you had to do was ask and I would have posed for you. Izuku once again was a color to rival the blonde's eyes. No. I mean, when I was walking by I saw you and I. Katsuki raised an amused brow watching the greenet try and explain. Izuku 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐸𝐸 in a breath and then bit his cheek as he turned the camera screen back on. Remember when I told you that I like to capture things other people might not see? He asked shyly, meeting the blonde's eyes. Katsuki nodded. Oh, if someone looked at you sitting there like that they might not think too much of it. But when I saw you sitting there like that it was clear to me you were heavily focused on something even if it wasn't your homework, you were lost in thought about something and whatever it was made you stand out. The greenet finished with a shaky voice, not wanting to sound like a complete weirdo. Katsuki stared at him. Hell, no one ever paid that much attention to him. I mean, yes, he had loads of attention because of his looks and football status, but no one had ever paid attention to him like this, on that kind of deep level. Effie was more intrigued than ever by this little someone. Emerald looked into Ruby. What? You said I was lost in thought about something, someone. I was lost in thought about someone, Katsuki said simply, his gaze holding on to the emerald orbs that was searching his face for an answer that he hoped the greenet would figure out. Izuku's heart stuttered in his chest. He was getting ready to say something when a voice broke the trance he was in. Midoriya. There you are, I've been looking all over for you. You were supposed to meet me after your last class. You didn't check your text either, Shoto said as he moved closer to the two. Katsuki clenched his jaw tightly at the interruption. Oh yeah, sorry Sho. I didn't see it and I forgot about meeting you. I ran into Kaken and we were talking, Izuku said, looking at his best friend who was eyeing the blonde next to him. I see that. Come on Izuku, let's go get lunch, Todoroki said with a slight smile. The greenet looked at Katsuki next to him. Their eyes meeting. He bit his cheek. He wanted to stay right where he was, but he didn't want to upset Shoto and have the two argue. Reluctantly he stood up, gathering his things. Yeah. I'll see you later, Kaken. Katsuki looked up at the greenet, who he could tell didn't want to leave. He clicked his tongue. Give me your phone, Freckles. Izuku took out the device, handing it over. Katsuki punched in his information, sending himself a text so he had the greenet's number in return. Let me know if you'd rather have lunch with me one day, he said with a wink, handing the phone back while he shot a glare at Todoroki when he stood up. See you at practice, half and half. With that the blonde was up, walking in the other direction. Izuku couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed by that, not to mention a tad annoyed by his best friend. Do you always have to do that? The greenet asked as they started walking to get lunch. Do what? Izuku rolled his eyes. Be all big brother overprotective and stuff. We were just talking. I don't know what you mean, I just came to get you for lunch. Shoto responded, keeping his eyes straight ahead. Izuku scoffed slightly. Oh my gosh, Sho, please. You've tried to keep me away from him since the first day. I'm not a kid, you know. Shoto cut his eyes at his friend. I know that. But I told your mom I'd look out for you and I don't trust Bakugo, that's all. The Greenit felt himself getting upset, but he didn't want to argue, so he dropped the subject. The two were eating lunch at a nearby pizza shop when Kirishima popped through the door, spotting the two immediately. "Hey brothers. What's up guys?" the redhead said, happily plopping himself down next to Izuku and helping himself to a mozzarella stick from the Greenit's plate. Izuku smiled at him. He'd known him less than a week but was already fond of the happy-go-lucky redhead. "Hi Kirishima, nothing really up, how about you?" Izuku asked, sipping his soda while he looked at the redhead who just fist-bumped Todoroki. "Hello. Well, I'm having a party tonight in the dorm, I want you guys to come. Especially you Mido, we haven't gotten to party together yet." Izuku tensed right away. Partying was something he didn't do, had never done. The thought alone had his anxiety jump into his throat, threatening his air supply. Kirishima looked over at the nervous Greenit, his face dropping slightly. "Mido. You okay man? You'll be there right dude?" Midoriya isn't much for parties, he will probably sit this one out," Todoroki said. Izuku scrunched his face, angry that Shoto had once again spoken for him. "I'll be there Kirishima, what time?" Izuku asked. Kiri's eyes lit up. "Around 8 man, I'll see you bros tonight." Once Kirishima had left, Shoto looked at his friend in surprise. "I didn't think you'd want to go to a party." "Well, how will I know if I don't try? And stop speaking for me, Sho. I'm shy, but I still know how to speak for myself. I was supposed to be trying new stuff this year, remember?" Izuku asked. Shoto smiled slightly. He knew Izuku was right, and he wanted him to try new things, but he couldn't help his protective side when it came to his best friend, though he could see he needed to try and tone it down. Okay, point taken," Todoroki said, putting his hands up in surrender. Hours later, Izuku was staring in his mirror, wondering why the actual hell he had agreed to a party. Izuku Midoriya was not cut out for parties. He's way too anxious for this stuff. He stood chewing his nails, pacing back and forth, giving himself a verbal pep talk. It's fine, what's the worst that could happen? And you know Kirishima, Shiro and Denki, and Shoto will probably show. And maybe Kaken will be there." That stopped him in his tracks. Was Katsuki going to be there? Of course he will, stupid, he's insanely popular around here and best friends with Kirishima. This had him back in closet trying to figure out what to wear. A few doors down, music was already blaring from the redhead's room. 8:30 and this dorm room party was in full swing. Katsuki was currently standing in the corner with his third beer. Sharp red eyes scanning the room and the hall since the party spilled out, and was now occupying Kirishima, Katsuki and Denki's rooms. Some blonde chick was desperately trying to get the blonde's attention. And he hadn't heard a DMN thing she said. Ever since Hair for Brains had told him a certain Greenit said he'd be there, he's been keeping a close eye on the door. "Katsuki, why aren't you paying attention to me? I was thinking we could blow this party off and you could come to my room." The blonde girl pouted, looking up at him. Katsuki looked down at her for a second. What the F was her name even? He really didn't give a SHT, honestly. He was getting ready to tell her to F off when he heard Kirishima. "Yo Mido. There you are bro." Katsuki's eyes snapped to the door, seeing the little SHT he'd been waiting for. His eyes raked over the Greenit and the F. Did Katsuki's Bakugo's heart just skip? The Greenit was standing there, ripped black skinny jeans, black and orange fitted t-shirt with a black flannel tied around his waist, orange high-top Converse on his feet. He definitely caught the blonde's attention. Emerald eyes landed on Katsuki in the corner, who was looking right back at him. The Greenit noticed the girl who was currently touching the blonde's chest unbeknownst to a caught-up Katsuki. Izuku bit his cheek, his anxiety high, and there was that annoying jealous feeling again. Just as Katsuki was pushing this chick the F away, trying to make his way through the crowded room, someone else noticed the Greenit and made his way to him first. "Izuku. Happy you made it," Denki said, putting an arm around his shoulders, guiding him to a table full of drinks. "Oh, hi Kami," Izuku said with a nervous smile as he looked over his shoulder to see a radiated blonde who was being stopped every step he took by either a handsy guy or girl who were pawing at him left and right. Izuku actually rolled his eyes at the scene as he continued to be led by the yellow-eyed male to the table where Shiro was passing out drinks. "Mido. Hey dude, try this," This is my favorite, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 said with a grin. Izuku took the red solo cup, staring down into the red concoction mixed in it. The green-it reluctantly took a sip, the harsh liquor burning his throat on contact, making him cough instantly. Denki patted his back while the green-it coughed. Yeah, should have warned you that 𝐒𝐮𝐴 makes a strong but drink. With watery eyes the green-it looked at Denki. Yeah, I see that, he coughed out. Denki chuckled, ushering Izuku to a corner where he could talk to him better. The music in the room was loud, the sound pulsating through the green-it's chest. Denki was leaning in so he didn't have to shout. You look great tonight, Midoriya. Seriously, really good, Denki said with a grin and a wink, getting even closer. Now Izuku doesn't have much experience in the dating or relationship field, but he knows when someone is hitting on him. He flushed immediately. He likes Denki, he really does, but he doesn't think he likes him like that, at least not at the moment. To say Izuku is incredibly uncomfortable right now is an understatement. He's blushing like mad, his feet shifting side to side, and holy hell is it hot in here. His mouth went dry because he doesn't want to turn the yellow-eyed male down if he asks him out, but he doesn't want to say yes either. Suddenly there's a voice behind Denki's shoulder, and if Izuku thought it was hot before, the temperature shot up 50 degrees when he saw Katsuki up close, standing there in his black fitted tank top and black jeans. Oi Freckles. It's about time you got here. I've been looking for you. You owe me a dance, remember? The dunce. Back up and let him breathe, and shitty hair is looking for you. Katsuki gave Izuku a wink, letting him know he was trying to save him from an awkward situation. The green-it breathed a sigh of relief as Denki backed up and eyed Katsuki. He came with you. No he was supposed to meet me here, and like I said, hair for brains is waiting for you, Katsuki said as he reached over and grabbed Izuku's hand, tugging him out from the corner. Oh right, Kaken. Sorry I'm late. Sorry Cammy, I'll talk to you later, okay? He yelled over his shoulder as the blonde pulled him through the crowd. You're welcome, Katsuki smirked when he had successfully pulled the green-it to a semi-quiet part of the room that wasn't overcrowded. Izuku laughed softly, looking up at the blonde. Thanks for that, but how did you know? Katsuki chuckled. Because you looked uncomfortable as even I could see that. Izuku flushed, a bit embarrassed by his noticeable discomfort in certain situations. He cleared his throat, pushing his anxiety down. I'm surprised you noticed, considering the fan club you had surrounding you. Izuku smirked up at him. Katsuki chuckled, raising a brow. You jealous, Freckles? Emerald orbs locked onto rubies. Yes, no, just an observation. Katsuki gave a half smile, looking to the side then back at the green-it. First of all, I wasn't paying anything attention to what you call a fan club. I was actually trying to get to you before Dunce showed up, and second, you're hard not to notice. Izuku felt his heart flutter, not sure what to say, feeling the blush on his cheeks as he kept a shy gaze on ruby eyes. Was this just a line this fiery blonde used on everyone? God, he hoped not. Katsuki suddenly reached for the green-it's cup, taking it from him and setting it down, taking his hand. Izuku looked at him in question. You owe me a dance, remember? Katsuki smirked. The green-it's face paled. What? Oh God, Kaken, I can't dance in front of all these people. And I'm not very good at it anyways. Izuku fumbled out in a panic. Katsuki grinned down at him, lowering his face so he was eye level with the now shaking green-it. Freckles, who gives a f what people think? What are they going to do? Say something to you? I dare them to even try. You know how much SHT you miss if you keep being scared. F that, come on, Katsuki said as he grabbed the green-it by the hand, leading him to the center of the room. Izuku's hand tightened around the blonde's. He felt like every eye in the room was on him, even if it wasn't. The song was on the faster side too, making him more nervous. Relax, Freckles, F these extras in here, focus on me. The blonde leaned in and said as he put his arm around the green-it's waist, pulling him closer, rocking him side to side in time with every beat while he bobbed his head, looking at the self-conscious boy clung to him with pink dusting his cheeks. Izuku's eyes met Ruby's and Katsuki smiled. The green-it started to rock in sync with the blonde, getting lost in those eyes, thinking about what Katsuki said, to focus on him. Soon the room faded and Izuku relaxed a bit. There you go. You got it now, Freckles. Katsuki grinned, spinning the green-it around, then pulling him back to him, making Izuku yelp in surprise and giggle as Katsuki sang loudly to him. As a river flows, gently to the sea darlin', so it goes. Some things were meant to be taken. I hand take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. Izuku couldn't help the loud laugh that escaped him as he put his arms around the blonde's broad shoulders while Katsuki spun him around while they laughed like idiots in a room full of people who were indeed looking at them. But for once in the 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻𝑖's 19 years he didn't care what people thought. When Katsuki heard Izuku laughing, acting silly with him, it made his heart swell. This is what those emerald eyes should be doing, not hiding behind, well, anything. They danced to a few more fast songs, laughing and joking until a slow song came on. Izuku smiled at Katsuki, slightly sheepish, his nerves rising again, thinking the fiery blonde wouldn't want to slow dance. He started to walk away to get a drink when the blonde grabbed his wrist, pulling him back to him. Where the F you going, huh? This is the best part, he said with a smirk, putting his arms around Izuku's waist. Izuku flushed but didn't try to resist. They moved slowly, Katsuki's eyes on emeralds, who would shyly look away, making that feeling spring into the blonde's chest whenever this nerd was close. Katsuki studied him closely as they danced. The blonde absent-mindedly reached up and tucked a green curl behind the 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻𝑖's ear. Izuku looked up at him and smiled softly. His heart tripped inside his chest, something that never happened. The F was this little SHT doing to him? Izuku had no idea, but he was dangerous. Dangerous to a blonde who swore he would never fall for anyone. The music stopped and shy green eyes smiled. Thanks, Kaken, Katsuki smiled. You make it sound like I did you a favor. I wanted to dance with you too, nerd. The 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻𝑖's laughed, tinted crimson. Glad. I should be going though, I have an early class, Izuku said softly, even though he really didn't want to go. I'll walk you to your room, Katsuki said, leading him from the still crowded area. They walked a few doors down. Izuku leaned against his door, looking up at crimson eyes. Thanks for everything, Kaken. I really had fun tonight, and that's rare for me, he sheepishly giggled. Katsuki smirked. You're welcome, nerd. See what happens when you don't hide. Izuku laughed softly. There was that DMN trip in his chest again. Katsuki stared at the 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻𝑖's in front of him, his fiery gaze making Izuku feel like he was burning alive. But he forced himself to keep it held with his own. Now normally Katsuki would have already kissed anyone else by now. Normally they would probably already be in his room doing way more than that, and by morning they'd be shoved out without a second thought. But this little freckled nerd wasn't like everyone else, was he? No, not even close. So Katsuki Bakugo did something he never thought he'd do. He pushed that stubborn curl behind the 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻𝑖's ear one more time, then ran a thumb over a freckled cheek, and he softly said good night. Get some sleep, Freckles. I'll shoot you a text tomorrow. Okay, Kaken. Good night. The 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻𝑖's smiled before he opened his door and slowly closed it, keeping his eyes on the blonde still standing there. When the door fully shut, Katsuki ran a hand through blonde spikes as he walked towards the doors for a cigarette. Could this actually be possible? Could he be falling? As he replayed the night thinking of that laugh and those pretty emerald eyes, a thought came to mind. Yeah, just maybe. Izuku was currently working at the university shop. There was a staff meeting he was now attending at a table in the corner of the shop. His manager was rambling on to about 5 of them, reminding them of their daily responsibilities and new books and apparel that would be coming in, along with rules and regulations. Normally this kind of thing didn't bother the 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻𝑖's, who was good at memorizing things and taking notes, but the problem was this manager talked so slow that it made every minute feel like hours. The 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻𝑖's had only started his job 2 days ago, so he was really trying to pay attention best he could. Izuku was actually finally starting to zone out. That was until his eyes landed on the double glass doors and he saw Katsuki, Kirishima and Siro walk in straight from football practice, and Izuku Midoriya just choked on the water he was drinking. Emerald orbs focused solely on the fiery blonde who had the nerve to just come waltzing into the 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻𝑖's workplace looking like he was and expecting said 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻𝑖's to be able to keep his heart in his stupid chest and stay focused on work. And how he was looking was unbelievably hot. Izuku thought for sure this teasing blonde absolutely did this on purpose. Katsuki was still in his way to well-fitting black uniform breathes with gold stripes running down toned thighs, with his short matching black mesh practice jersey that showed off perfect chiseled abs, black Nikes on his feet. Blonde spikes were slightly messy from his helmet and sweating. He was a little dirty from rolling around on the field, but all Izuku could think was how even that just added to how hot Katsuki actually was. To be fair, all three were still in uniform, but Emerald Eyes were only glued to one. He watched as the three stood there a minute, all of them looking around in different directions. Izuku felt his heart rate pick up. Were they looking for him? He hadn't had a chance to really see Katsuki since the party, which had only been 2 days ago. Fiery Rubies found its target, and a large smirk took over when his eyes met the Greenets, who instantly tinted rosy-cheeked when the blonde winked. Katsuki nudged Kirishima, and 𝗧𝗟𝗘 nodding his head in the direction of the now distracted Greenet. Kirishima lit up, waving wildly at him, making Izuku smile and shake his head in amusement at the sight as he waved back carefully so he didn't draw the boss's attention. 𝗧𝗟𝗘 smiled wide, also sending the Greenet an enthusiastic head nod and a wave. Emerald Eyes watched as the three then headed to the drink station, all getting large slushies from the machine. Luckily for a Greenet who was no longer paying attention to what the heck this meeting was even about anymore, since ruby red eyes and a body that should be illegal coasted through the doors, his meeting was over. Izuku made his way back to the register where he was working and began to open up a box of pens with the school logo printed on them. He bent down to pick up one that he dropped. When he came back up, he was met with a smirking blonde leaning across the counter almost nose to nose with the unsuspecting Greenet, who flashed red, instantly swallowing hard. "So close, the Greenet said, taking a step back. Katsuki grinned. "Hi Freckles, you didn't tell me you worked here. I had to overhear half and half tell Dunce's face in class today." Izuku smiled, laughing softly. "Well, it wasn't a secret or anything, it just never came up and I just started. It's only part-time, so I won't be here every day, but it's something, and now you know," he smirked at the blonde. "Hell yeah I do, you can expect visits now. I walk this way every day after practice," Izuku chuckled, pointing to the blonde's attire. "I see that." A cocky smirk took hold. "Yeah. You noticed, huh? You checking me out, nerd?" Katsuki said, his fiery gaze dancing with playfulness. Izuku flushed, crimson working its way rapidly across his face. He bit his cheek, his eyes meeting teasing Ruby's, then looking away with a shy smile. Like you said about me the other night. Why you're hard not to notice." A heart tripped in a build chest. Katsuki bit his straw as he continued to look at the flushed Greenet, who met his gaze again until a redhead interrupted. "Mido. Awesome that you work here, dude. We come in here all the time," Kirishima said as he jumped up on the counter, taking a bite from the power bar he had, handing Izuku the money for it. Izuku looked up and smiled wide at the cheerful male. "Good. Look forward to seeing you guys then." 𝗧𝗟𝗘 came to the counter with his slushie and a Slim Jim, a grin on his features. "Oh yeah, you'll see us for sure, especially Kat over here," the raven-eyed male said with a tease as he nodded his head towards the blonde. It was clear to both him and Kirishima that Katsuki had something burning for the little Greenet tinted pink behind the counter. Katsuki smirked when shy eyes met his while the Greenet rang up the purchases. "How was practice?" Izuku asked, trying to put a leash on the demon butterflies in his stomach. "It was good, man. You should come watch one day, and dude, you gotta come to our first game in a week," Kirishima said, happily swinging his feet as he sat perched on the counter. "Yeah, then you can see our quarterback here in action," 𝗧𝗟𝗘 said with a knowing grin, pointing to the fiery blonde. Emerald Eyes snapped to ruby ones that were just staring back at him with a slight amused smile. Of course Katsuki was the quarterback. What else would he be? Could this guy get any more DMN irresistible? Izuku thought, biting his cheek again. "Let me know if you want to go and I'll get you in for free, nerd," Katsuki grinned. Izuku smiled, nodding. Yeah, he definitely wanted to see this blonde play for sure. Suddenly Kirishima's voice broke through. "Baku bro, you got a sour green apple slush. You always get wild cherry." Katsuki looked over at the redhead, then back at the Greenet, who was looking at him with a ped brow. There was a smirk and a wink. "What can I tell ya, hair for brains? I got a craving for green these days," Izuku almost squeaked out loud, his face lighting up the color of Kirishima's hair. "What the heck? Oh god, he's going to be the death of me right behind this counter." 𝗧𝗟𝗘 and the redhead snickered at the reaction, seeing the shy Greenet coming unraveled. Before Izuku could get his mouth to work properly to respond, Katsuki spoke again. "We gotta run, Freckles, but I'll see you later, nerd." the blonde said with another grin that made Izuku wonder if his heart was beating correctly. Izuku was called suddenly to the back to put more cups at the drink station, so he nodded quickly and waved to the trio who were all saying goodbye. The greenette hurried to the back, quickly stacking the cups in their correct place when another football player stepped up, grabbing a cup and filling it with the deep green slushy mixture, but when he pulled the handle something went horribly wrong and the slush liquid started to spray out in every direction, soaking both the greenette and the football player next to him. Izuku reached for the handle and shoved it into the off position, running a hand down his face to clear some of the sweet sticky mixture. "Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I dunno what happened." Before the greenette could finish his sentence, the football towering over him erupted in a fit of anger. "You idiot! Look at my uniform. You are absolutely worthless." Tears sprung into a shy, terribly humiliated greenette's eyes as he shakily tried to explain. I have no idea. What happened, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't help. You shouldn't be working here if you can't do your job, you worthless Deku. You better hope this comes out of my uniform or I'll. Before he could finish and before Izuku knew what happened, a fiery blonde was upon them, a demonic growl ripping from his throat. Katsuki grabbed the collar of his teammate and slammed him harshly against the wall, with a loud thud, the impact making the other player lose his breath. Ruby eyes were flashing dangerously with anger. He had come back into the shop to grab a new notebook he had forgotten to pick up when he heard the commotion, and now he's glad he did. "What the F did you just say to him, Minoma? And you aren't gonna do SHT, you understand me, F'er? I'm the last one who touched that machine. You got something to say to me, you pages? You better watch your goddamn mouth, because if I hear you talk to him again like that, you're going to need one hell of a dentist to fix the damage I'll cause. Tell him you're sorry, you and do it now." Katsuki growled, his eyes never leaving his clearly frightened teammate. "Sorry. I didn't know Bakugo," he stammered out. "Are you an idiot? Don't apologize to me, you F. Apologize to him." Katsuki said, his anger on the rise, his grip tightening, fist ready to knock this moron the F out. He nodded his head towards a shaking greenette. "Yes, right. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that," Minoma said, his voice unsteady as he tried to pry the blonde's fingers from his jersey collar. Kirishima had rushed in when he heard the scuffle. He saw a seething Bakugo and a shaking, scared greenette. He hurried to Izuku, putting an arm around his shoulder as he tried to stop a possible murder. "Bro, you can let him go now so you don't get busted for fighting, and Mito is a mess, so let's help him clean up, man," Kirishima said, trying to defuse the situation. He has seen Katsuki fight often in the years he's known him, but he has never seen him do it to defend someone like he just did, not even his friends. This was indeed new. Katsuki tore his eyes from his victim to look into wide, scared, teary emerald orbs. A twist in his stomach told him he didn't like that look on this little SHT. He clicked his tongue, letting Minoma go with one final whispered warning. "You stay the F away from him. In fact, if he's here, you don't even come in. You got me." Minoma nodded, hurrying away as soon as he was released. Katsuki turned to Izuku, who was being wiped off by a redhead who was also trying to comfort him. Kirishima liked the little greenette a lot, and this was upsetting to him too. "You alright, Freckles?" Izuku wasn't alright. He was embarrassed and upset, his feelings hurt by the names he was called. Shaken up by the way he was yelled at for no reason. His heart still hammering away in his ribcage at the incident and the explosive fight that almost took place. He wanted to cry, he wanted to run, he wanted to hide. All he could do was look up at Ruby eyes and nod yes, even if Katsuki could clearly see it was a lie. He looked at Kirishima, whose eyes softened as soon as he met the still teary emerald gaze. Thank you both. I'm okay. I should go to the restroom and see if I can get the rest of this off," the greenette said softly as he turned to go. "Freckles, are you sure, yo?" Katsuki didn't get to finish before the Izuku spoke again, not turning around. "I'm okay, really. You guys can go. I gotta clean up this mess, but thanks again," the greenette said, his voice cracking as he walked away. Katsuki watched him go, his tongue clicking, anger rising again because of the stupid F'er who caused that voice and those tears that he didn't have to see to know were falling. Kirishima broke his thoughts. "Come on, dude, let's give him some space. We'll check on him at the dorms later," Kirishima said with a sigh. Katsuki only nodded as they made their way out of the store. Once Izuku was behind a closed bathroom door, his resolve broke, and he let out a muffled sob. The embarrassment of the whole thing making him feel like he might vomit. He was too sensitive for what just happened. He looked in the mirror, finally pulling himself together, cleaning himself off as he thought of the way Katsuki had rushed in to defend him, and although seeing the blonde's explosive temper was startling at first, he couldn't deny it was amazing having the fierce blonde protect him. He sighed one more time, then exited the bathroom to clean the mess out there and finish his shift. Several hours later, a restless Katsuki was laying across his bed, arms across his chest, looking up at the ceiling. His mind kept replaying what he saw when he walked back into the store today. Izuku's face had been twisted into a look of shocked embarrassment, his emerald eyes wide with glassy tears. He was flushed deep red, but not the cute kind when the blonde flirted with him, the kind that burned with humiliation. He wanted to hide. Katsuki saw it immediately. In the short time he's known that little 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐸, he knows him enough to know those words that dumbass had the nerve to yell had made an already self-conscious nerd feel 100 times more so, and that was not sitting well. The blonde had stopped by his room once, and so did Kirishima, but the little greenet either wasn't there or wasn't answering another thing that wasn't sitting well. Katsuki had even texted him but got no response. What the F? Katsuki Bakugo does not get left on read. The blonde let out a loud, frustrated groan as he got off his bed, grabbing his room keys and cigarettes. His mind twisting with thoughts. When the F did he start to care about how other people felt? When he laid eyes on that little emerald-eyed 𝐮𝐽, that's when. He internally rolled his eyes at his self as he exited his room and then the dorm. Izuku was sitting on the bleachers of the university's outside stadium, his camera aimed at the sky as he took pictures of the night. The stars were out, it was cool and peaceful, just what he had needed after today. Shoto had stopped by his room earlier after hearing about the incident. He had been upset for his best friend, apologizing for not being there. He was also surprised when Izuku had told him that it was okay because Katsuki had stepped in. Shoto even questioned if it was the right Bakugo because that was just not something he did on behalf of anyone else, ever. Izuku was focused on the bright patch of stars that were out, snapping shots in fast succession, so focused that he didn't see or hear a fiery blonde who was currently jogging up the track in front of the bleachers. Red eyes caught sight of a figure on the top row of the stands, and he knew who it was instantly. He stopped running, breathing as he continued to stare at the figure who had his camera aimed at the sky. The blonde took the bleacher stairs 2 at a time, quickly making his way to the greenet. His voice making Izuku jump as he removed his earbud. "There you are. You hiding again, Freckles?" Katsuki asked with a smirk as he sat beside the greenet. Izuku met rubies and laughed softly. "I wouldn't really call this hiding, I mean you found me," a tease in his soft voice. Katsuki chuckled. "Whatcha doing out here this late, nerd?" The greenet let out a light sigh, looking up at the stars. "I couldn't sleep, so I came out here to take a few shots of the stars. I could ask the same about you too, Kaken. Why are you out here so late?" Katsuki shrugged. "I like to run when I have a lot on my mind is all." Izuku looked over at him with wonder in emerald eyes. "What's on your mind?" Katsuki looked over, meeting his gaze. Just school stuff, nerd." Izuku nodded, looking back up at the sky. Katsuki took in his features. The cool breeze making green curls sway. His freckles lit up by the light on the field. His eyes emerald as ever, though he looked sad. "You okay?" "I know today's after what that effer pulled in there." Izuku nodded, looking down with a slight smile. "I'm okay. As you can guess, I'm not good dealing with that kind of thing. But nothing I can really do so." Katsuki pet a brow. "The F there isn't. Get mad, Freckles, use your voice. Don't you ever let someone talk to you like that. If it ever happens again, you tell whoever it is to F off because you aren't taking that Izuku snapped his eyes towards him. "I can't do that, Kaken. I'm not like you, or Shoto, or any of you really." You're what? Weaker. You might be shy, Freckles, but that doesn't make you weak. You just have to learn to use that voice I know is in there. What happened today set you off, right? It wasn't even your fault, and this mother effer walks in like he owns the place, screaming at you, what the F for? And then this 𝐒𝐻 has the ball to call you stupid and useless when you are far the F from it, right? I heard about you, I know what kind of grade average you hold, I've seen the pictures you take so DMN effortlessly. You think he could do either? F him. Izuku's eyes were wide as he hung on every word this fiery blonde next to him was saying. He was right, he was smart, he wasn't useless, and it did make him angry, something he didn't even see till right now. Say it, Freckles, say it said you off. Izuku scrunched his face. Yes. It did. It did what? What did it do? Made me mad. Said me off, he said a little louder this time. F ya it did. And Monoma can F off, can't he? And if he ever has the ball to look down at you again, what the hell are you gonna say, huh? F off, the greenet said loudly. One more thing time, what are you going to say? F off. Izuku yelled at this time something he never did. A huge grin took hold of Katsuki. That's thing right. No more of that, that's it. And if that doesn't work, you thing call me. He smirked with a wink. Izuku smiled wide, his pretty teeth showing. The smile met his eyes, lighting them up, and Katsuki's heart tripped against his chest. Thank you, Kaken, for this right now and for today. You're my hero, he said with a slight smirk, bumping the blonde's shoulder as he tinted crimson. Katsuki smiled, he couldn't help himself. Your hero, huh? I could get used to that title. Ruby eyes locked onto Emerald's. There was a couple beats of silence before Katsuki noticed the greenet shiver. The autumn air was getting cooler at night. We shoulda get you back to the dorm before you catch a cold or some, the blonde said as he pulled off his hooded sweatshirt, leaving his t-shirt on, handing it to the greenet. But you'll be cold, Izuku protested. Nah, I'm hot-blooded nerd, Katsuki said with a wink, causing that pink he loved to dust Freckles. The blonde stood as Izuku pulled on his sweatshirt, which he swam in. Katsuki was the one now biting his cheek because damn it, this little effer could make his heart feel stupid things so easy. The blonde took a few steps down, waiting for the greenet, but as Izuku gathered his bag and took a step, his feet got tangled in the bleachers and he landed face first into Katsuki's arms. Izuku burned crimson just like the first time the blonde caught him. Sorry, Kaken, Katsuki chuckled. What the F would you do without me? Okay, maybe you are a little Dekuish, but only around me, and I'm the only one allowed to say it. Katsuki smirked down at the male still in his arms. Izuku giggled slightly, neither one making a move to part the position they were in. Rubies and emeralds locked again. Katsuki finally cleared his throat. Come on, it's late. They walked back together talking about random stuff till they reached the greenet's door. Izuku began to pull the sweatshirt off to give it back when the blonde stopped him. Keep it. It looks good on you. Besides, it gives me an excuse later to come to your room to get it back, he said with a smirk. Izuku put his head down, laughing softly with a blush. He could never fight when it came to this blonde who kept drawing him closer. He bit his cheek. You don't need an excuse to come to my room, he said softly, meeting a fiery gaze. Heart trip. Damn it, Freckles, the F are you doing to me? Katsuki smiled again, reaching up, touching a freckled cheek. Good to know, the blonde said as he reluctantly stepped back, walking backwards toward his room, eyes still on the greenet. Good night, Kaken, Izuku smiled. Good night, Deku, the blonde smirked, causing a giggle chased by a blush. Trip, trip. F. A cool, crisp fall breeze was blowing through dark green curls, the autumn leaves dancing around the greenet as he walked, enjoying the sunlight on his face. Things were going well for Izuku. He's been in school 3 weeks. Job is going good, the friendships he's forming are getting stronger, he even picked up a couple new ones. A purple-haired male named Shinso that he works with, and a pink-haired enthusiast girl named Mina that Kirishima had actually introduced him to, who was a cheerleader for the team. He took to her instantly, liking how friendly she was. Much like Kirishima, she made him feel at ease. He was still trying to get used to the whole social thing, and though he still had anxiety and still hid out sometimes, the group he was slowly becoming closer to made had started to make things a little easier. Of course, he still had Shoto, who always checked on him. He had backed off a bit on his overprotectiveness, but he still kept a close eye on things, not particularly happy about Izuku hanging around with Bakugo. So yes, things had been going well for the greenet until today, that is. He has an extremely important photography assignment coming up, and Izuku Midoriya is stressed the hell out. It counts as a huge grade, and his photography teacher is tough, saying that if any student turns in a project that he feels doesn't meet his expectations, could possibly be removed from the class to make room for someone more deserving of the spot. Izuku was currently walking up the path by the stadium, chewing the inside of his cheek with anxiety, his mind on his assignment. There was a voice next to him suddenly. "Hey Midoriya." Izuku turned his head to see 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 step up next to him, keeping pace with his steps. The 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗟𝗘 smiled. "Oh hi Shin. How's it going?" "Good, but it doesn't look that way for you. What the hell has your face twisted in that expression?" 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 said with a grin. Izuku stopped short, scrunching his face up even more. What do you mean?" 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 chuckled. "It's even worse now." Izuku stared at him, then rolled his eyes at the male with a slight smile. "I'm just thinking, mumbling too, I heard you down the path," 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 said with a smirk. Izuku stopped short again, his face tinting crimson. "Seriously? Oh God, I really gotta stop doing that," he gumbled with embarrassment, turning his face to the side as he walked again. 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 laughed. "So what's got you looking like that and mumbling like a crazy person down the street?" Izuku laughed lightly. "I have a crazy important photography assignment due and I'm just stressing over it, I guess," he explained. 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 hummed in understanding next to him. The 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗟𝗘 almost let out an anxious laugh thinking about what his friend just said. He could imagine he did look crazy, practically talking to himself out loud. Thank God Katsuki hadn't seen him. Speaking of, Izuku's steps slowed as they were passing the practice field, seeing the football players scattered across the vibrant green turf. His eyes automatically finding a certain ruby-eyed player in that to-die-for black uniform, a football in his large hands, getting ready to throw the ball down the field to a red-headed running back who was racing to catch the powerful throw. Without another thought and almost forgetting all about his friend next to him, he lifted his camera from his bag and took shots of a quarterback that was impossible not to notice and a few of the rest of the team, zooming in on the ones he knew. Suddenly there was frantic waving in his lens from one of the subjects he had locked in zoom. Kirishima had caught sight of the little 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗟𝗘, jumping up down waving with both hands in the air at him. "Yo Mido bro." Izuku couldn't help but laugh at the redhead who always seemed so excited to see him. Izuku kept his face in the viewfinder but raised his hand and waved back happily. Katsuki's head snapped in the direction of his running back's calling and waves. Ruby eyes landed on that little 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗟𝗘 taking pictures, the sight making him instantly grin, but then something else caught his sight that made that grin turn into a slight scowl. Who the hell was with that little 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗟𝗘 exactly, and why? This he decided was a call for closer inspection, so the blonde raised his hands and called for a timeout. Pulling off his helmet and running a hand through sweaty blonde spikes, he took off in a jog towards the chain-link fence the 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗟𝗘 was standing behind, Kirishima and 𝗧𝗏 not far behind. "You friends with the whole team?" 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 asked with a smirk, seeing the three trotting toward him and a two-toned hair male wave from a distance yelling the 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗟𝗘's name. Izuku shook his head with a light laugh. "No, just a few." A violet brow was raised with a smirk as he watched the 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗟𝗘 next to him lock onto the blonde, making his way towards him with an almost goofy, dreamy look on his face. "The quarterback, huh? Nice." Izuku snapped out of his daze looking at the teasing male. "W hat. Noah, we're just friends," 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 grinned. "Yup, whatever you say, short stack. I'll see you at work tomorrow," he said, pocketing his hands walking down the sidewalk. Izuku scrunched his face, yelling after him. "I'm serious." He only heard 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 laugh. "As if Kaken would ever even consider dating someone like me when he has a million other way more interesting options. Right? I mean, it's not really a possibility. Right? I mean, he flirts and stuff, but that doesn't mean anything. Right?" The 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗟𝗘 thought to himself as he watched his new friend walking down the sidewalk, lost in his thoughts, until he heard a familiar deep voice making emerald eyes snap up at the blonde who was now on the other side of the fence, towering over him with a smirk and a ped brow. "Right, what Freckles?" Izuku froze. 𝐻T, what did you mumble?" "Did he hear you?" Nothing Kaken, just talking to Shin," he tried to cover with a blush and a smile. Katsuki let his eyes wander down the walk. He nodded his head in the direction of the male walking away. "Who's that?" Intense ruby eyes questioned. "That's 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽, a friend. I work with him at the store," the greenet answered, seeing Katsuki only nod in response. A spark of courage hit the greenet and he smirked. Why, jealous Kaken? Ruby and Jade locked. One word rushed to Katsuki's mind. Yes, wait, what? Was Katsuki Bakugo jealous? He had never been jealous over anyone, he never needed to be, he always just shrugged it off and moved on to the next, but this little FO was different, wasn't he? Of course Fing was. This little itty was making him question everything about himself lately. Katsuki smirked, finally answering. Sassy Deku. No, just curious, he lied. Izuku smiled up at him with a soft laugh. How's practice? Just got better, Katsuki said with a smirk, leaning on the fence, taking the water bottle that was sticking out from the greenet's bag, taking a long drink from it. Ruby eyes cut to the side, looking at an almost mesmerized Izuku. He would have smirked if he didn't think he'd choke. Izuku flushed, forcing shy eyes to stay on this hot blonde with water dripping down his chin and muscular neck as he chugged the cold water from the greenet's bottle. That's right, his bottle, the one he had just drank from moments before. That had to be some form of a second-hand kiss, right? Ugh, Izuku, you're an adult in college, for crying out loud, not a middle schooler. Second-hand kiss. What are you, 12? He mentally eye-rolled himself. A happy redhead was there suddenly. Midobro. Katsuki practically growled as he emptied the bottle. This extra was always interrupting a moment. Izuku looked over at Kirishima and Siro, who had caught up. Hi Kiri, Siro. You guys look good out there. I'm sure you'll do great when you guys play. Izuku beamed. Kirishima grinned at him. Tonight, dude. You know the game is tonight, right? Izuku face dropped. He had completely forgotten that last week at the shop they had told him the first game was tonight. He so badly wanted to see them play, but he had to get working on this project. He knew he'd never be able to relax till it was done. 3 sets of eyes were staring at him in question. Emerald orbs eyed the trio, looking at him. I'm going to try, he said softly. He didn't miss the almost disappointed look in a blonde's ruby eyes. Kirishima frowned. Aw, Mido, you aren't coming. Izuku bit his cheeks, so not wanting to disappoint them. I'm not sure, it's just I have this really big assignment I have to get started on. But if I don't make this one, I'll definitely be at the next, I promise. You better at least come to one game to see your best friend play, Shoto said, coming up on the group. Katsuki cut his eyes at the bicolored male, clicking his tongue. Who the F invited all these extras to the fence with him anyway, he thought with annoyance. Izuku smiled at his best friend. Yesho, I will. I want to see all of you play, he said softly, though emerald eyes were just on one. The blonde noticed the gaze on him. He sent the greenet a wink, watching crimson fly across freckled cheeks. Shoto rolled his eyes, seeing the interaction. Even if he had agreed to back off on the overprotective stuff, it didn't mean he had to like whatever the hell this was going on here. The coach yelling that their time out was over made the football players groan as they pulled their helmets back on. Katsuki lingered a bit as the others moved back to the center of the field. He handed the greenet back his empty water bottle with a smirk. I'll see you later, nerd. I hope you make it tonight. Izuku gave him a shy smile. Bye, Kaken. I'll see you later. The greenet watched as the blonde jogged back to the field. Good God, he really was perfect, Izuku thought, his mind wandering dangerously. He shook his head like an etch-a-sketch, trying to rid his thoughts before he self-combusted on the sidewalk. Several hours later, and the first game of the season come and gone. The blonde was sitting at an after-game party, beer in hand, ruby eyes trained on the door, just in case that little nerd hadn't shown up to the game. Katsuki was sure of it. Ruby red eyes had scanned the area many times during it. He even had Mina keep an eye out, but the little SHT had never shown. It didn't look like he was showing at this party either, even though Kirishima told the blonde that he had definitely invited him. Katsuki clicked his tongue. This was new for him, waiting and wanting anxiously for someone to show up. He was waited on, he was the one everyone wanted to show. Katsuki Bakugo did not hold anticipation to see anyone. Till now. What the actual F? Some chick was suddenly in front of him. Hi Bakugo. You looked amazing out there tonight. You want to dance? She said, leaning into him. He stared at her. Did he want to dance? Normally he would, but did he want to right now? No, not the F at all. He does want to walk 5 doors down and see where he F that nerd is though. Katsuki is restless and he knows why. God damn that little sh. No, I don't. I gotta run, is all the blonde said as he pushed past the random extra now looking at him in shock. Katsuki exited his room and walked down the hall, stopping at Izuku's door. He raised his hand and gave the door a hard couple knocks with his knuckles. He put his hands in the pockets of his faded blue jeans waiting for some kind of response. He almost thought the greenet wasn't there until he heard the sound of rustling and then the door squeaked opening a crack, an emerald orb peeping out. Katsuki rose a brow. Oi, you okay nerd? Izuku let out a loud sigh. No, not really, he said, not moving the door. Katsuki furrowed his brows. He didn't like the sound of that. Can I come in? I mean, you told me I didn't need an excuse to come to your room, remember? Well, here I am, Katsuki said with a smirk. The greenet took a deep breath, chewing his cheek. Okay, but it's kinda a disaster in here right now. The blonde eyed him through the door crack. You hiding a dead body in there, Freckles? BDSM dungeon maybe. He smirked, crossing his arms. Izuku flamed red. Kaken. You're terrible. Izuku whined, making the blonde chuckle. I know. Now you gonna let me in or what, nerd? Okay, fine, but no judgment, okay? This only made Katsuki smirk wider. Now he's really curious. Well, I dunno, Deku, am I gonna see SEC toys and SHT laying all over the place? I mean, not that I mind, that I just wanna be ready, Kaken. Oh my gosh, get in here. The greenet yelped, his face bright crimson as he swung the door opened wide, pulling the laughing blonde inside. Katsuki instantly stopped laughing as he took in the room that literally looked like a bomb went off. There was at least 100 photographs laying all over the bed, desk and floor. Magnifying glasses for looking closely at the photos. Cameras and camera equipment littered the area too, as well as several notebooks with the greenet's notes scribbled in them. Holy Freckles, what the F happened? He asked in shock, turning to see a very freaked out looking greenet. I know. It's bad, so bad. But I'm trying to find the perfect photo because I have this huge photography assignment and I can't seem to get the right photo or light or placement. If my teacher thinks it's trash, I could lose my spot in the class. And oh God, Kaken, I don't know what to do. Izuku was frantically speaking, his words coming out a mile a minute. He was pale and Katsuki thought he might actually pass the F out. Oi, calm the hell down and breathe before you pass out or something. Here, sit down a minute, Katsuki said, moving the greenet to a surprisingly empty chair. Izuku did as he was told, trying to steady his breathing. Katsuki moved some of the photos on the floor and crouched down in front of the chair. Listen to me, okay? First, there is no way you're getting kicked out of that class. I've seen your SHT, it's not gonna happen. Second, you have to calm down because you being an anxious disaster isn't going to help, and you'll make yourself sick. Emerald orbs landed on ruby ones. He knew the blonde was right, but he felt so overwhelmed. Tears stung the corners of his eyes. He bit his cheek and nodded at the blonde. Katsuki studied him for a minute. He could see the glassy tears. Oh hell, he didn't like this at all. He thought for a minute as he looked around the room, then an idea hit him. He stood quickly. Come with me, grab a jacket and bring your camera. Izuku blinked at him a couple times, but did as he said. Katsuki snatched his hand as soon as they were in the hall. He pulled him along quickly to his room where there was still a party. He moved through the crowded space, barking at anyone who stepped in his way as he found his jacket and car keys, never letting go of a confused greenet. Everyone get the F out of my room, take this hair for brains or dunce, but get the F out of my room, he yelled. As he was headed back out his door, he ran smack into Kirishima. Bro. There you are, and hey Mito. Katsuki cut him off before he could say any more. We're going out, get those F-airs out of my room, is all he said as he pulled Izuku behind him, who looked over his shoulder and waved at a confused redhead. The blonde exited the dorm on a mission as he tugged the greenet behind him, who was having a rough time keeping up with the long-legged Katsuki's big strides. Kaken, where are we going? Izuku breathed, trying to keep up. You'll see, Katsuki smirked back at him. When they got to the blonde's car, he opened the door for the greenet, shutting it once he was seated. Katsuki entered and started the appealing black 𝗼𝐻𝗄, making it roar to life. Izuku looked over at the fiery blonde who threw him a wink, taking off out of the campus lot. There was comfortable silence as the two drove. Izuku's mind was full of wonder as to where they were going, but if he was being totally honest, it didn't matter. He was happy to be with this blonde beside him, so any place was good. Geez, Katsuki could be driving him right down to the gates of hell to meet Satan himself, and he'd probably be okay with it. Soon the blonde turned up a dirt road. It was steep, seeming to go straight up. Finally he slowed the car when they reached the top. Pulling into an open clearing. Katsuki exited the car, Izuku doing the same. Katsuki looked at him with a grin. "Look up, Freckles." Izuku did so, and as soon as he did, he gasped. The stars on top of this incline in this clearing were breathtaking. The Milky Way was even in view. The color of the stars against the inky midnight blue sky was unbelievably vivid. Izuku was almost speechless. Oh my goodness, Kaken. This is amazing," he said excitedly as his eyes met the blonde's, who was smiling back at him. There was that trip against his chest that only happens when this nerd is near. "I thought maybe you might be able to get a good shot up here for your project, and if not, then it was a good excuse to take you up here," the blonde smirked. Izuku's heart fluttered as he laughed softly. "I thought I told you didn't need an excuse. I thought that only referred to coming to your room, but I'll keep this in mind too." Emerald locked onto Ruby, and there was a blush as he whispered. "You do that trip." Katsuki took his jacket off and laid it on the hood of the car for the greenet to sit. Izuku sat nodding a shy thank you as he began to shoot photos. He was absolutely amazed at how they looked. He was lost behind the lens, drowning in soft starlight. Katsuki sat near him, his eyes watching this intriguing emerald-eyed male who made him feel things he never had before, so dim and easy. This little SHT wasn't just cute, the blonde decided. He was pretty. His features were soft. And those emerald eyes could cut through him even if this nerd didn't know it. He was so caught up looking at him that he didn't even notice when Izuku had started taking to him. "You okay over there? What are you so focused on?" Izuku asked with a soft giggle. "You nerd, always you lat," Katsuki grinned. "Nothing, just watching you work, so when you become famous and I can be like, yeah, I knew that nerd in college. I sat with him one night after he had an almost nervous breakdown in his room over a photography assignment." Izuku couldn't help the laugh that broke out, echoing through the cool night air. Trip. Phew. Izuku looked over and flashed a smile. "Thanks for bringing me here, Kaken, this is great." Katsuki nodded at him with a slight smile. Izuku's mind began to wander as he gazed at the sky. He wondered if this fiery blonde next to him took his dates up here. The thought making a knot form in his stomach and a frown tug as emerald eyes looked off in the distance, lost in the unpleasant thought. Katsuki noticed. "Deku, you alright?" Emerald eyes looked over, both staring, until Izuku cleared his throat, looking down, smiling slightly. The blonde furrowed his brow. That smile looked sad all of a sudden. "What?" he asked so gently it almost didn't sound like him. Izuku looked at him again. "I want it to be me, only me." Nothing, I was just thinking we've known each other for like month or so now, but we still don't know that much about each other," he said soft. Katsuki eyed him close. It seemed like more than that. But he decided not to push. "So ask, Freckles, what do you want to know? Do you have any siblings?" "Nope, I'm an only brat." "Do you?" Izuku smiled. "No, it's just me and my mom." Katsuki furrowed his brow, wondering if he should ask about his dad. If he was gonna. "And your dad?" Izuku looked down and gave a sigh. "No, he left when I was 5, haven't seen him since." Katsuki wanted to kick himself now. "I'm sorry." Izuku chuckled softly. "It's fine, I'm okay with it now," Izuku said, then changed the subject. "Favorite color?" "Emerald, fing, green, orange." "Red? But I like orange too." Katsuki asked the next question first. "Longest relationship?" Izuku blushed suddenly. He didn't want to tell this blonde next to him he never had one. But he didn't want to lie, so he let out a nervous laugh. "Never." Katsuki's eyes widened a bit. How the hell was that possible? This little FO was adorable and sweet and smart. What the actual F? What? You can't be serious. Izuku wasn't sure if it was good or bad the way he asked. I am serious though. I've dated here and there but I never had a real relationship. Pathetic huh? He said softly. It wasn't pathetic at all. If anything it made him more desirable somehow. HT like he needed that to happen. No, it's not at all I like it, Katsuki whispered the last part. Izuku snapped his eyes to rubies when he heard that. Both stared a beat. How about you? The greenet asked, not knowing if he really wanted the answer. Katsuki looked up at the sky. He didn't know if he even wanted to say because honestly he didn't know for sure. Maybe he hasn't had one either. Dates, yeah, tons, one-night stands, yup, but he never let anyone stick around longer than a week or two tops. That definitely wasn't a relationship. He shrugged finally. I dunno, does a week or two count? He said with a slight smirk. Izuku got quiet. This was good and bad, he guessed. Good because it meant he wasn't hanging on to anyone, bad because it meant he probably was really a heartbreaker who just shuffled through hearts like cards. Katsuki looked over nervous by the silence. What was this nerd thinking? Say something, Freckles. Oh. Why is that? I mean you could take your pick, the greenet said softly. Katsuki studied him again. He didn't want to say the wrong thing here. I'm not sure. I just never found anyone I wanted to stick around, I guess. It was more complicated than that. But Katsuki didn't want to get into all of it right now. He wasn't even sure he knew how to get into it. Katsuki was complicated. Izuku nodded, he could understand. That he guessed. So how many dates you brought here? The greenet finally asked again, trying to smile though he was chewing his cheek with anxiety. The blonde looked over at him as the greenet looked up and met his gaze. Do you count? I wish I could say this was a date with you, you heart-stealing. I've never brought anyone up here until tonight. I come up here to think or be alone. You're the first, Freckles, probably the last. I don't want any shitty extra crowding my space, but I'll share it with you. Izuku's heart fluttered. He blushed, putting his head down with a smile and a soft laugh. Me? Oh my goodness. So when you're a famous football player, I can say that Katsuki Bakugo, in a moment of pity, let me his nerdy Deku share his secret hiding place. The greenet smirked. Katsuki let out a loud laugh. Then a smile came to his mouth, not a smirk, not a half smile, or a grin, but a true smile that made rubies shine in the starlight. The wind shifted those perfect blonde spikes and Izuku's breath hitched because Katsuki was freaking stunning. Izuku quickly took a picture with the blonde, hardly noticing. You should smile more, Kaken, it looks good on you, the greenet said with shy in his tone, looking up at the sky. Katsuki looked over. Yeah. Stick around, you little. It happens more often than you realize. By the way, thanks for tonight, Kaken, you saved me again. You might be taking this my hero thing to heart. Izuku giggled. Katsuki smirked. Hell yeah. Like I said the other night, what the F would you do without me? Izuku giggled again. Be having an almost nervous breakdown in my room. Katsuki chuckled. No, seriously though, thanks, Kaken. You even left a party, and after you guys won and everything, I'm sorry you had to do that, the greenet smiled softly. I'd do it again in a heartbeat, Katsuki shrugged. I've been to a lot of parties, I've never been up here with you. This was better, Katsuki said as a appealing blush raced across pretty features. Trip, hard trip. Way better. Another week had come and gone since Izuku's almost nervous breakdown in his room that Katsuki had saved him from. Much to the relief of the greenet, he had successfully turned his project in yesterday, and though he didn't have a grade just yet, his teacher said he was highly impressed, which meant that Izuku could breathe a little easier knowing he probably wasn't going to get booted out. He was just getting back to the dorms from work on a Friday evening. He was just about to reach the door leading into his dorm building when his hand was grabbed from behind, making him jump wide-eyed until he turned to see a giggling Pinkett. Hey cutie. It's movie night in my room. Come on, we never get to hang. The other boys are there too, even Shoto. Mina said happily as she pulled the greenet by the hand away from the door, really not giving him a choice in the matter. He smiled nervously at her. What movie is it? He asked as she hurried him along by the hand down the path. Oh, I don't know, some horror thing Baku babe picked out, supposed to be super scary. Eek, it's gonna be great. She giggled with excitement. Izuku on the other hand wanted to turn the other way and run right back to his room because Izuku does not do horror movies. Not without pretty much screaming every 5 minutes, or crying, you know, whichever came first. Oh god, this was bound to be embarrassing, especially if Katsuki was there. Faster than he wanted, and before he could think of a good excuse to bail, they were in front of Mina's dorm door. He took a deep breath and said one last prayer to whatever god was out there that he didn't make a complete fool of himself as she led him inside, announcing his arrival. "Look who I found," she yelled with a wide smile, holding his hand up in the air in her own as all eyes turned towards the two. Izuku immediately flushed, not liking all the attention on him. He bit his anxiety back though and forced a nervous smile and a slight wave. He knew most of the room anyways: 𝗧𝗟𝗘, Kirishima, Denki, and Shoto. There were a couple others in the room he didn't know. He did notice the blonde girl who had been all over Katsuki that first day was there. Emerald eyes actually shot her somewhat of a glare before he focused on a group yelling his name. "Hey Mido!" 𝗧𝗟𝗘, Kirishima, and Denki yelled in unison with grins. Izuku smiled, waving at the trio. "Midoriya, I definitely didn't think I'd see you at a horror flick," Shoto said, walking to the greenet with a chuckle. He knew his best friend and how he felt about scary movies. Izuku smiled as he leaned into his friend, whispering out of earshot of Mina. "I know. I didn't really have a choice, but I'm here now, so let's hope I don't disgrace both of us." Shoto couldn't help but laugh at his friend's response. Suddenly Izuku realized he didn't see a certain blonde who was supposed to be here. Before he could question it too much, Katsuki emerged from Mina's bathroom. Emerald and Ruby locked instantly, and a large grin formed on a fiery blonde. The greenet's attention was suddenly pulled in another direction as 𝗧𝗟𝗘 was in front of him, handing him a drink in solo cup. Izuku pet a brow, remembering the first drink 𝗧𝗟𝗘 had given him that almost burned his esophagus out. 𝗧𝗟𝗘 chuckled, seeing the reaction. "I promise bro, this one has less kick." Izuku took a sip, and to his surprise he liked the fruity concoction in the cup. He shot a grin at 𝗧𝗟𝗘, who seemed to be waiting for his approval. "It's good 𝗧𝗟𝗘, I like this one." The greenet smiled wide. 𝗧𝗟𝗘 lit up. "Sweet man. I knew I'd find one you liked." Mina was back beside them suddenly with a bubbly girl with short brown hair. "Izubabe, this is Ochako. She's on the cheer squad with me. She wanted to meet you." Izuku looked at the girl, smiling at him. He flashed her a smile. "Hi. It's nice to meet you. I'm Izuku Midoriya," he said softly. "Hi. I've seen you around taking pictures. That's so cool that you're a photography major." Ruby red eyes were eyeing the situation now across the room. A scowl was slowly forming. He clenched his jaw. Who the hell did round face think she was anyway, coming up to him talking to that nerd like she knew who the F he was? Katsuki was so focused on this little interaction that he didn't hear Kirishima next to him. "You okay, man? You look stressed." Kirishima grinned. He knew why. He saw where Katsuki's eyes were, or who they were on. Katsuki shot him a glare, then clicked his tongue, deciding he was gonna stop this right the F now. "Oi Pinky, you gonna start the movie or what?" he snapped. Mina laughed as everyone moved to their seats. Ochako waved bye to Izuku as she hurried over and sat by Mina. Izuku looked around nervously, trying to figure out where to sit when he heard a blonde's voice. "Freckles, looks like you're with me. I mean, there's no more room, so," he smirked. Izuku flushed, seeing Katsuki sitting on a large beanbag chair in the back of the room, patting his thigh for the greenet to sit. His heart took off at an unhealthy pace. It was true there was no more room, but oh god, could he really sit on Katsuki's lap without melting into a simping puddle? He took a deep breath and gulped down the drink 𝗧𝗟𝗘 gave him. Time to find out. He made his way over, slowly stepping over Kirishima, who grinned at him. He looked down into ruby red eyes that were staring back at him with that CC smirk that made the greenet's heart flutter every time. The blonde was leaning back with his arms resting on the back of the beanbag chair. His muscular thighs parted. He was wearing black sweats and a red tank top that fit so well it was ridiculous. The greenet swallowed hard as he awkwardly sat on Katsuki's thigh with his back towards the blonde's built chest. But this position wasn't going to do. Katsuki decided as he reached down and under Izuku's legs and turned him sideways, pulling him back further, so the green it was sitting way back on his upper thigh and his lap with both his legs across toned thighs. Izuku flushed even darker, his breath noticeably hitching, making that smirk grow wider. How am I supposed to be able to see that blush or talk to you if you're sitting the other way, Freckles? Katsuki whispered since Mina had started the movie. Izuku let out a small quiet laugh, whispering back. We're not supposed to be talking anyway. It's a movie, Kaken. I've already seen it. Want me to tell you what happens? Katsuki grinned. Izuku rolled his eyes at the blonde playfully with a smile. The green-it let his eyes fall to the screen, and he was instantly sorry he did as he watched the teenage girl on the screen get stabbed by a giant hook and get dragged off into the woods. Izuku jumped at the sight, slapping a hand over his mouth so he didn't shriek like a girl. Katsuki raised an amused brow. Oh, this was perfect, perfect. This little SHT was scared of horror movies and he was in his DMN lap. Are you scared, Freckles? Katsuki whispered into his ear, making goosebumps fly over the fair skin on the green-it's neck. And no, he mumbled, making the blonde chuckle. It's not nice to lie, Deku. Izuku in a breath, looking at the smirking blonde. Okay, maybe. I hate scary movies. Always have. He shouted. Katsuki couldn't help but laugh quietly at the cute little perched on him. Good thing your hero is here to protect you then, huh, nerd? Emerald looked into teasing rubies. Izuku bit his cheek. Yeah, I guess so, he smiled softly. 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 leaned back and gave Izuku another cup suddenly. The green-it smiled at him and took it, taking another sip. Katsuki looked at him, furrowing a brow. What are you drinking? I don't really know. Something 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 mixed up. It's actually really good. It tastes like strawberries or something. Katsuki rolled his eyes, knowing how strong 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 made drinks, and he knows for sure this little lightweight won't be able to handle much. Be careful with that SHT, Freckles. Who the hell knows how much he put in there? Izuku scrunched his face up. It didn't taste that strong. It was more sweet than anything. But he'll admit he was tipsy after the first one. Halfway through the movie, the green-it definitely was feeling the 2 drinks he had from 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘. But he was okay, just buzzed. He was now fumbling with the silver band he always wore on his middle finger. It had become too tight and he was having a hard time getting it off. He cursed himself for not taking it off a couple days ago when it started to get tight. Now it was stuck. Katsuki noticed him pulling at his finger. What's wrong? He whispered. I think my ring is stuck. I can't seem to get it off and it kinda hurts, Izuku said, slightly embarrassed by the situation. Katsuki furrowed his brows as he took the green-it's hand, looking at the ring. It was dark in the room, the TV light the only thing showing, but the blonde could see his finger was really red. He tried to give it a tug to see if he could loosen it, but it wasn't budging and he could see the discomfort on the green-it's face when he did it, so he knew it hurt. He thought for a minute, then he did something that almost was the actual death of a little shy green-it on his lap. Katsuki took the green-it's finger and slid it into his mouth. Emerald eyes shot to fiery rubies and they locked on. Katsuki saw the reaction. It wasn't one he was trying to gain, honestly, he was just trying to get the ring off, but when he saw wide emerald eyes that sparked to life with something else, he decided he couldn't let this opportunity go. No Fing Wei. The blonde held his finger there inside his warm mouth, running his tongue slowly in circles around the ring to get it slick enough to pull off, but he kept his eyes locked on Izuku's. Izuku's mind is shot. He's not even functioning at this point. And my god, is he on fire right now? Because that's exactly how he feels. Izuku Midoriya is burning alive and he's perfectly okay with it. Katsuki then suddenly put his teeth on the band and gently, ever so painfully slow, began to pull as emerald eyes watched every move. He saw the green-it hold his breath as he bit his bottom lip, and see now who's more worked up, him or this nerd. He isn't Fing sure anymore. He felt the ring come loose and he slowly pulled it off. He pulled Izuku's finger from his mouth but kept the ring in his teeth, his eyes still on the other. Izuku swallowed hard, memorized by the sight. Katsuki took the ring from his teeth and held it up with a smirk, still holding that mesmerized gaze. I keep saying it, but what the F would you do without me? I keep saving your butt left and right. Izuku blushed crimson as he came out of his trance. He laughed softly. I know. I told you you're my hero, obviously I need one. I guess Deku really fits me, huh? Izuku laughed again, the shy showing. Katsuki's heart tripped against his ribs. It only fits if I say it, Deku, the blonde whispered, keeping his gaze on soft emeralds. Izuku bit his cheek. God, every time he was around this fiery blonde he felt more and more caught up. He cleared his throat. Thanks Kaken again. Like always, he said, reaching for the ring still in the blonde's fingers until Katsuki closed his hand around it. Izuku looked up at him, tilting his head in question. Katsuki smirked. Well, it doesn't fit you anymore. I think I'll hang on to it. Izuku rose a brow. But if it doesn't fit me, it definitely won't fit you. Your hand is huge compared to mine, the greenet whispered. Does it? Let's see. The blonde grinned, knowing the answer already. Katsuki put his hand up, spreading his fingers out, his palm facing the greenet. Izuku raised his hand slowly and laid his palm on the blonde's, lining his much smaller fingers up with Katsuki's. Izuku's hand was indeed way smaller. His palm not meeting the sides of the blonde's, his fingers not reaching his fingertips. I guess you're right, Katsuki said as he closed his fingers and interlocked their hands for a minute while he looked into shy emeralds. What Katsuki didn't expect to feel, though, was that warm, tingly sensation now running up his arm just by holding this little SHTS hand like this. It fit Fing perfectly, and all be'd mad if he didn't want to keep it locked in his palm for as long as he could. But much to his disappointment he wouldn't get to, because without the two even realizing it, the movie had ended and Mina just flipped on the lights, making Izuku retract his hand shyly. The greenet reluctantly stood up. When he did, a thought came to the blonde's mind. It's Fing cold now. The normally overheated blonde felt Izuku's warmth leave him, and he couldn't help but admit to himself he hated that feeling. Izuku was peering down at Katsuki, who hadn't moved. He furrowed his brows slightly. Kaken. You okay? He asked gently. Katsuki looked up, meeting his gaze. I thought I was until my eyes landed on you that first day. Now I don't know what the F I'm feeling, Freckles. I'm good, Deku, the blonde said. Standing. Izuku was getting ready to say something when Kirishima stepped up, putting an arm around both of them. Yo Mido, so glad you came, man, but I gotta steal Baku bro for a minute so he can help me move some weightlifting equipment from my room to Ciro's. Izuku smiled and nodded at his red-headed friend. Sure Kiri, no problem. I'm probably gonna head back to my room anyway. A frown tugged at the blonde hearing that. Wait for me for 10 minutes and I'll walk you back to our dorms. Katsuki said, more of a statement than a question, as he walked out the door, not really giving the greenet a chance to argue. Not that he really would have. Ciro quickly handed him another drink with a smile before he rushed out after the two. Here Midobro, last one. Izuku was about to decline, but it was too late. He sighed and looked down into the cup. Well, they are good, he thought to himself before he shrugged and chugged the contents of the red cup. He quickly realized mistakes had been made when the bottom of the cup hit, because this one was much stronger than the others and he was already buzzed from those, and holy SHT was the room spinning. When Katsuki and Kirishima had made it to the hall, the redhead decided to ask his bro a question. So you and Mido a thing yet, or what? Doesn't normally take you so long. He smirked at his friend. Katsuki side-eyed him. Not that it's any of your Fing business, but no, we aren't. Kirishima rose a brow. But it's clear you both like each other. What's the hold-up, bro? Katsuki glared at him. But yeah, what was the Fing hold-up? This was 100% not normal for him. I don't know, it's different. Kirishima had a grin forming. He's got an idea what's different, but he wants to hear him say it. What's different, man? Katsuki stopped short, his annoyance growing by questions he didn't really have answers to yet either. I don't know, shitty hair. Just different. He's Fing different. Stop asking me this. Katsuki snapped, shoving his hands in his pockets as he continued to walk. Kirishima snickered to himself. He's never seen the blonde get so defensive over a relationship question. Izuku Midoriya was definitely different, and it was showing. Izuku was currently leaning against the wall for balance as Ochako was talking to him about something he wasn't even following along with, because his mind was on blonde spikes and ruby eyes and not falling the hell over in an embarrassing face plant. Katsuki suddenly re-emerged into the room, his eyes finding the greenet right away, but something didn't look right. He made his way there as droopy emerald orbs met his eye. Kakahan, there you are, hi. Izuku slurred. And now Katsuki knows what isn't right, this little 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐷 is drunk as F. Hi nerd. Did you have another drink? Didn't I tell you to be careful with that 𝐸? Izuku giggled as he took a step towards the blonde, stumbling until Katsuki reached out and grabbed him to keep him from falling, like a wobbly toddler taking his first steps. The greenet's arms went around his neck as dopey drunk eyes looked up at fiery reds. Sorry Kaken, but they were so good. You should try one. A drunk Izuku said. Kirishima and Shiro made their way back into the room. Kirishima rose a brow. Yo, you good Mido bro? The redhead asked, seeing the swaying greenet. Kirishima. Hey man, I'm great, how are you? But how to get your hair to do that? It looks so manly, Kirishima asked with a huge grin. Yes. Manly. That's the word. Izuku said, still clinging to the blonde. Katsuki rolled his eyes. Shitty is the word Freckles. And soy sauce, how many of those things did you give him and what the F was in them? Shiro looked over at a very drunk greenet. A little of this and that. I kinda just tossed together everything, but that last one was probably more alcohol than mixer. Katsuki narrowed his eyes. Why the F would you give him that one? You see how small he is, he's a fing lightweight dumbass. Izuku scrunched his face. I'm standing right here. He whined as Katsuki looked down at him. Sorry nerd, but it's true. Plus you aren't used to drinking. Come on, it's time for you to go to bed and sleep this 𝐮𝐷 off. Say good night, Freckles. Oh okay. Good night, Freckles. Izuku yelled, waving at Kirishima and Shiro and a giggling Mina as he waved at them. Katsuki shook his head in amusement with a laugh as he led the greenet out of the room. The blonde put an arm around the greenet's waist while Izuku's arm rested across the blonde's shoulders as Katsuki walked him down the sidewalk to their dorm. Izuku stumbled once. Careful nerd, before you end up with stitches or some 𝐮𝐷. Izuku giggled. I bet you don't even know my real name, do you Kaken? You never use it. Katsuki looked over at him. Izuku. The greenet stopped walking, looking at the blonde. Wow, it sounds so good coming out of your mouth, but everything does. There is a rapid tripping against the blonde's chest. DMN this nerd. He's got to stop saying this 𝐮𝐷 while he's wasted. Katsuki smirked in the dark as they started walking again. And what's my name? I bet you still can't say it, Izuku laughed. Yeah I can, I actually practiced, Katsuki. You are the one and only Katsuki Bakugo, he whispered it, the name dripping off his tongue like silk. It was the blonde's turn to stop walking. Ruby locked onto emeralds. What? Oh god, did I say it wrong again? Izuku panicked. No you didn't, no nerd. You said it just right, so fing right, he never wanted to hear it said from anyone else ever fing again. They were finally at the dorms and Katsuki continued to walk the drunk greenet to his room. When they got to the door, Izuku tried to put the key in the lock but failed. So Katsuki did it, then walked the wasted nerd inside, closing the door behind them. The greenet collapsed onto his back onto his bed after pulling off his jacket. Katsuki smirked at him, then he put a trash can right next to the bed. He moved into the greenet's bathroom, taking out the pain relievers from the medicine cabinet. He walked out, handing 2 to the greenet with a glass of water. Take those, then when you wake up in the morning take 2 more because you're going to have one hell of a headache, he instructed as he sat the bottle on the greenet nightstand. Izuku did as he was told as he watched Katsuki pull his shoes off for him and throw them on the floor. Katsuki sat on the bed next to him, studying the greenet, who was looking up at him with drunkenness all over his pretty features. Katsuki chuckled, shaking his head. You're gonna be sick as 𝐮𝐷 in the morning, you know that right? Izuku gave him a goofy grin. Yeah, totally worth it, Katsuki laughed. I'll ask you if you still think that in the morning when you're puking your guts out, Katsuki smirked. Izuku giggled as he looked up at the blonde. Katsuki locked onto him for a minute. He moved that curl that never stayed put behind Izuku's ear. The greenet's eyes went soft. Thanks Kaken, my hero, he smiled. Trip, no problem nerd. Get some sleep, I'll check on you in the morning. Katsuki stood and moved to the door, looking back one more time as soft features smiled at him. He sighed, waving as he stepped out and pocketed his hands as he went to his room with something buzzing around his heart like a diamond swarm of bees. After the greenet was alone, he laid there trying to sleep, but he couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes he saw rubies, and he saw the way Katsuki had removed his ring with his teeth, and oh god, there was that fire on his skin again. He liked this fiery blonde more than liked. He was falling face first for him and he knew it. It was too late to stop it now. He wondered why the blonde hadn't really made a move on him though. He flirted all the time, took care of him more than once. That's gotta mean something, right? An idea came into a foggy mind. If Katsuki wasn't going to make the first move, he could, right? He sat up suddenly. Liquid courage bouncing through his veins. Drunk courage is just what he needed to let that blonde quarterback know just how he felt. He stood up and stumbled out his door. Yeah, he was drunk, but he knew how he felt. He made his way 5 doors down, his heart hammering in his chest, threatening to leap from its place. He raised a shaky hand and knocked. The door swung open, revealing a shirtless blonde in black sweats with a smirk and a raised brow. "Hey Freckles, you really should be in bed," he said, leaning on his door frame. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴𝐾𝐾𝐾𝐾. Can I come in a minute? This was new, Katsuki thought. The greenet had never shown at his door. Not that he minded it thing all. He opened the door wide as the greenet took a few shaky steps in. Katsuki turned around to face him after he closed the door. "What's wrong, Deku? You okay?" he asked, slightly concerned because why the hell did this drunk nerd look scared? "Yeah, I'm okay. It's just. Izuku fumbled as he looked into intense red eyes. "Just." Before either one could think, Izuku's drunk courage took the reins and he closed the gap and crashed his mouth against the caught-off-guard blonde. Katsuki froze for a minute, his mind racing. He melted suddenly as he gripped the greenet's waist, pulling him close, and returned the hard kiss, his tongue demanding entrance as he deepened it. His tongue tangled with the greenet's and he explored the deep caverns Izuku's mouth. He groaned into it because this little SHT may not have had many relationships, but he sure could kiss. Christ almighty. Electric currents kept running down the blonde's spine. He was swept up, caught up in an emerald typhoon that is crashing over him in waves like he has never felt ever. But suddenly he starts to come to his senses. His mind screams at him to stop because this little SHT is drunk as F, and Katsuki Bakugo is a lot of things, but a scumbag that takes advantage of a situation like that is not one of them, especially not with this emerald-eyed heart stealer. He pulls back reluctantly, very, very reluctantly, because he wants this. If he's honest, he has wanted this for weeks, and sweet Jesus, this feels like nothing he has ever experienced, and that's saying a lot. He breaks free, breathing, putting his hands on Izuku's upper arms, pushing him back slightly so he can look at him. Freckles, wait. Stop. Emerald eyes snap open wide as he looks up into smoldering rubies. He tenses immediately. Oh no, no. This fiery blonde just told him to stop. The word is bouncing over and over inside his ears. The greenet is now stone cold sober, and he was just rejected, and that's making bile start to creep up his throat. Izuku takes a huge step back. Oh god, Kakanun. I'm sorry. I should have known better. He's crying now, cursing himself for it. Katsuki's mind is racing. He sees pain in those emerald eyes, and that's not what he wants. He reaches out to try and catch Izuku's hand to try and explain, but the greenet recoils like he was bit by a snake. Deku, wait, let's talk about this a minute, okay? It's not what you think. Izuku wraps his arms around his own stomach, feeling like everything from the past year is going to rip from his insides and the walls feel like they're closing in. He's got to get out of here. No. It's okay. I should have known. I did know. I knew someone like you wouldn't want someone like me. I have to go, he whimpered out through tears as he pushed past the blonde, whipping the door open, running down the hall to his room. The blonde is stunned by what he's hearing. Katsuki doesn't really know what a broken heart feels like, but god damn it, he thinks he does now because those words cut like a hot knife through butter, because holy F, how could this little SHT think that? Wait. What? No, Freckles, wait. Katsuki turns and flies down the hall behind him to his door, just in time for the greenet to literally slam it in his face. Katsuki feels panic. He just wants this emerald-eyed disaster to listen a fing minute. He bangs on the door. Damn it, Deku, let me the F in. We have to talk. You have this SHT all wrong. Let me fing explain. Izuku had immediately slid down the other side of his door. His legs pulled up to his chest. He doesn't want to talk, he can't handle it at the moment. Katsuki runs a frustrated hand through his hair as he stands here in the middle of the hallway in just his sweats at 3 fing am in disbelief because this is not something he's ever done. He knocks again more softly. Come on, Freckles, just open the fing door, give me 5 minutes and then you can kick me the F out if you want to. I refuse to talk about this through the goddamn door. He listens closely for any sounds. His heart aches when sharp ears pick up muffled sobs. Don't cry. Katsuki leans his forehead on the door. Izuku, please. Please just fing talk to me, you don't understand. The tone used even surprised the blonde himself. It's whispered but Izuku heard it, he feels his heart break at the sound. But he makes no move. He's frozen in place, he knows his limits, he can't handle any more tonight. Him even getting the nerve to kiss the blonde took everything, him getting rejected took anything else left. He doesn't want to hear the, "It's not you it's me," speech. He's sure the blonde is going to give him to let him down easy because there's nothing else it could be. How wrong he was. It was 4 am by the time Katsuki had finally reluctantly relented and gave up at the Greenet's door, going back to his own room to lay in bed restless, tossing and turning with Izuku's words and teary emerald eyes swimming through his head. It was 5:30 am when Shoto Todoroki was awoken by a familiar voice at the side of his bed. Izuku had a spare key to his room, and when he was sure Katsuki had left his door, a distraught Greenet crept to his best friend's room. Sho, I need you to wake up a minute, Izuku whispered after he had tiptoed into the room. Shoto slowly came out of his slumber, jumping up, slightly startled hearing his friend's voice in the dark. Midoriya. What's wrong, are you okay? He asked nervously, turning on his bedside lamp, seeing a pale, red-eyed Greenet. I'm okay, Sho, but I need to ask you a favor. Can I borrow your Jeep for the weekend? I want to go home, I will be back Monday, Izuku said in a hoarse voice from crying and vomiting the alcohol from his system only hours before. Shoto was sitting straight up now, moving to his friend's side on the bed. Izuku, what happened? Was it Bakugo? Did he hurt you? Bicolored eyes burned with intensity at the thought. Izuku bit his cheek. He didn't want Shoto and the blonde to fight, and he didn't want a million questions right now either. No, Sho, it's my fault, I just made a mistake and I need some space from here for the weekend. Shoto studied his friend. It was clear he had been. Last night when he was drunk as SHT and needed someone to take care of him. I didn't fing see you, but you know who was there, fing me. Now you wanna go, let's go, we can take this SHT the F outside, but don't pretend you know a goddamn thing about me or how I feel. Katsuki yelled, seething. Guilt slammed into Shoto as he took the words in. It was true he hadn't been there lately for the Greenet, not like he usually was. It was also clear Katsuki had been, even if he hated to admit it. He had told Izuku he would back off being overprotective, but he shouldn't have disappeared either. But still something happened. If it was really a misunderstanding or not, he didn't know yet. The bicolored hair male stilled slightly in Kirishima's death grip, giving the redhead finally a chance to speak. You guys need to fing stop, man, and put a wrap on this before you get caught fighting and then tossed from the game roster. And Mito would be said and upset, man, so knock it the F off, both of you. Yeah guys, cut the ye before we all get busted, 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 said, breathing from trying to hold back a seething blonde. Both males sent death-dealing glares at each other before Shoto pulled away, running a hand through bicolored locks and walking back to his room in anger without another word, slamming the door behind him. Katsuki yanked his arms back from 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘's loosened hold. A low growl coming from his throat as he turned to storm out, but 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 called after him. What's with you, dude? You have never gotten into a fight over anyone else before. Katsuki stopped, walking his back towards his friend. His mind searching for the answer. There was a couple beats of silence before he turned his head to the side to respond. Maybe no one else has ever been fing worth one till now. With that he was gone, down the hall and out the dorm doors, leaving a surprised 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 and an already knowing Kirishima. Izuku was currently curled up in his bed at his mom's house. He had stumbled through the door of his home about 2 hours ago. His mother had been surprised to see him. She quickly took note of how upset her only child looked as soon as he walked in. She instructed him to go lay down for a while before she asked any more questions. The 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻 had sent Shoto a text letting him know he was home. He ignored any that came after that, even several from Kirishima who seemed equally as worried. He was too emotionally drained to even text at the moment. His mind kept seeing ruby eyes and blonde spikes even though he didn't want to. His head replaying that kiss. Oh god, that kiss. The one that the fiery football player had actually returned, at first pulling him close until he stopped him. Izuku opened his eyes thinking. Wait, he kissed back first? What's that mean exactly? Nothing probably, he just realized he didn't want you, you idiot, he told himself. His mother suddenly entered with a cup of tea and a smile. Handing him the steaming liquid as he sat up taking it, she sat on his bed studying her son. So, you want to tell me what brought you home without a word and why you look like you just lost your best friend? Since you have Shoto's jeep, I know that isn't it, so what is it? She asked gently. He looked up and met her concerned gaze, then looked back down at his cup, tears in emerald eyes while he stared into the hot liquid. I dunno. I made an idiot out of myself last night. I thought someone who I knew was way out of my league had feelings for me, maybe. I was wrong, he said through tears. She furrowed her brow, not liking that her son assumed someone was out of his league. Izuku, tell me what exactly happened. Let's see if we can figure it out, he blushed slightly. Not really wanting to tell his mother he had kissed the fiery blonde, and oh yeah, there was the drunk part. He took a breath. I kissed someone, not just anyone, the quarterback of the football team. We have kind of been hanging out since I got to school, and I was a little, don't freak out, but a little drunk, and I kissed him like an idiot. But he stopped me. Obviously not returning my feelings. She rose a brow. She didn't like that he had been drinking, but she wasn't foolish enough to think he wouldn't be doing those things once he entered school. Did he say that? Emerald eyes met the same shade. What? Did he say that? Did he tell you he didn't return your feelings? She asked. Izuku scrunched his face. Oh, I mean, not exactly. But he stopped me, doesn't that say it all? That was rejection enough. I didn't need to hear him say it too. Her eyes softened. Izuku, how can you be sure that's what he was going to say? Stopping you doesn't necessarily mean he was rejecting you, maybe just the kiss in the moment it was given, but not necessarily you. The 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻 thought about what his mother was saying. It was true he didn't know for sure, but he just couldn't seem to wrap his mind around the fact that just maybe Katsuki felt the same. It seemed so out of his reach. When her son didn't respond, she could tell he was thinking. She smiled softly at him. Just think about it, and when you go back to school, maybe give him a chance to talk. Maybe you're right and nothing will come of it, but maybe you're wrong, Izuku, and it could be the start of something great. You'll never know if you run every time something scares you, honey, she said, kissing his cheek, leaving his room for a now even more confused 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻 to think. Hours later, Katsuki was in the weight room working out. His heart and mind tangled with emotions that he wasn't sure how the F to deal with. Katsuki wasn't good with them, not at all. It's one of the reasons he had always wanted nothing to do with a real relationship. But here he was, his demon heart aching in his chest, his mind angry. Angry at the fight with Shoto and the things that BSRD said to him, not knowing 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻, angry that the 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻 misunderstood and then refused to let him explain, angry then that the little he took off out of campus altogether, running away, leaving the fiery blonde twisted up with all these goddamn feelings surging through him like electric currents. And that kiss, let's not forget that Fing kiss that still danced on his lips, making his skin burn and tingle, missing the sensation as soon as it stopped. The kiss that had awakened something deep, something he had kept hidden from view, something he never wanted to deal with, Fing feelings. He stared in the huge mirror of the workout room as he lifted, the whites locked in both his large hands, sweat running down built arms that flexed, revealing powerful muscles under the skin. His face and neck wet with sweat as he pushed past his limits, making his arms ache, trying to work off the frustration burning through him. Earbuds tucked in his ears, the song Heart down on repeat, feeling the lyrics swim in his mind. Kirishima and 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻 watched from the other side of the room, working out too. Man, I don't think I've ever seen him like this, 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 said, shaking his head. Kirishima grinned and nodded. Well yeah, but he's never had feelings for anyone before either, dude. 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 met his eyes. You really think that's it? You think he likes Midoriya that much? I mean, I wouldn't blame him, but this is cat we're talking about here. Kirishima smiled. I do think that's it, and bro, I'll go as far as to say that I think it's deeper than I think our hot-headed playboy over there is falling for Freckles and Fing hard, bro. No way, man, you really think? Kirishima laughed. Yep. Crying. He had left the movie early, so he wasn't sure if something had happened after that. Clearly it had. Midoriya. Izuku cut him off. Sho, please, not a bunch of questions right now, okay? I promise we'll talk about it when I get back, but please can we just drop it right now? Shoto sighed. Fine, I guess, but I'm worried about you. Do you want me to go home with you? I'll stay the weekend at your house. Izuku shook his head no, emerald eyes on the dark blue rug on Shoto's floor. He didn't want company, he wanted to hide. No, Shoto, it's okay. I just want some time alone. I can have mom get me if you need your jeep though. Todoroki didn't want Izuku to be alone, but he also knew when he got like this he left no choice, so he got up and pulled his keys from his jacket, handing them over to the greenet. It's fine, you can take it, but promise me to text me as soon as you get home, and you better check in or I'll catch the train home to check. Izuku gave him a weak smile, taking the keys, getting to his feet. He wrapped his friend in a hug. I will show, I promise. Thanks, I love you, he whispered before he was out the door, leaving a bicolored mail to worry. By 6:15 am, Izuku was coming out of his room with a bag over his shoulder, keys in hand, to be met by a sleepy redhead who had come out of his room to go to the vending machine in the hall for a drink. Mido, you going somewhere, man? Kirishima asked, his voice hoarse from sleep. Izuku gave him a small smile, tears wanting to spill again. I'm just going home for the weekend. I'll be back, Kiri. A frown pulled at the redhead. He saw the tears. He took a step forward, putting his arm around the greenet. You okay, man? Something happened? And does Bakubro know you're headed out for the weekend? A tear slipped from the greenet hearing Katsuki's nickname. He wiped it away quickly. Part of him wanting to tell the redhead he had become close with what happened, but part of him not. He let out a small laugh, his eyes on the floor. I don't really think he cares about that, Kiri. I just want to see my mom is all. Anyways, I'll see you Monday, okay? Izuku said, giving the redhead a side hug, then moving away towards the exit quickly. Kirishima frowned, calling after him. Mido, wait, man. I'm pretty sure that's not true. He'd want to know, and hey, you want to talk? Izuku cringed. Why did everyone want to talk all of a sudden? He actually felt bad for walking away from the redhead. He called to him over his shoulder. No time, I gotta go. But I'll talk to you Monday, Kirishima, promise. And with that he was gone out the door to a back jeep in the parking lot, while Kirishima watched from the glass dorm doors. It was 9:30 am when a tired, grumpy Katsuki walked out of his room after only a couple hours of restless sleep. He stood at his door with tired red eyes, looking 5 doors down, feeling that knot in his gut that just wouldn't leave. He hadn't intended to go to his door this morning just yet, but if his feet weren't carrying him there anyways. He clicked his tongue in annoyance at himself as he knocked on the door like he had 100 times last night. Freckles, you alright? I just want to be sure you're not sick as 𝗧𝗟𝗘𝗃 from a hangover, he called through the door, getting met by silence. It was almost too quiet. A blonde brow furrowed, then he heard a redhead coming up next to him from down the hall. He's not there, bro, he left with his bag this morning. Katsuki felt his heart drop, red rubies snapping in the direction of his friend. What the F you mean? Where did he go and Fing when? Kirishima leaned his shoulder against the wall by the greenet's door. I ran into this morning early when I was getting a drink. He said he was going home for the weekend, that he'd be back Monday. He looked really upset. I asked if he wanted to talk, but he rushed out, leaving in Shoto's jeep. Katsuki's face dropped as he slammed his back against the wall, running a hand through blonde spikes, growling in frustration. You've got to be Fing kidding me, Kirishima rose a brow. What the hell happened, man? The blonde looked at him as he pushed himself from the wall, huffing in annoyance, and what the F else was this? Fear. F. Last night, Fing came to my room. And he kissed me, which on a normal Fing night would have been fine, Fing better than fine, but you saw him last night after the movie. He was drunk as 𝗧𝗟𝗘 and I didn't want him doing that drunk. I wanted him to be sure of what he wanted, and I'm not taking advantage of that 𝗧𝗟𝗘, but he took it as a goddamn rejection when I stopped him. He never let me explain before he bolted out the door. I followed him, but he refused to talk to me. I tried. Katsuki paused before he continued, his eyes trailing down the hall when he said the next thing, a pained expression on his face. Worst part is he said he knew someone like me wouldn't want someone like him. He really thinks that Kirishima's eyes softened. He saw a look on his hot-headed friend he never has before. The fact that Katsuki had stopped Izuku when he was drunk said a lot, and that he seemed to be so upset that the little greenet had completely misunderstood said everything else. Katsuki did not care about people's feelings, till now. Could his friend finally be falling for someone? His thoughts were interrupted. Oi, you have any idea where he lives? Holy 𝗧𝗟𝗘, is he really going to chase him down? Oh yeah, he's definitely falling, Kirishima thought with a smirk. No bro, I don't. He mentioned one time when we were taking that it was like 2 hours from here, but that's all I know. Shoto would be the one who would know, Katsuki scoffed. He'll never tell me. There was a voice suddenly behind them, one that rang with the sound of anger. Speaking of Shoto, what did you do, Bakugo? What the F did you do to him? Kirishima and Katsuki turned to see a normally calm Shoto Todoroki coming out of his room, storming towards them, still in just his red and black pajama breathes, anger burning in bicolored eyes, his fist clenched. Ruby red eyes flashed with anger. The F is your problem, half and half. Before Katsuki could say anything else, Shoto took a swing that the blonde dodged in disbelief but quickly put his fist up. Kirishima's eyes widened. He grabbed Shoto from behind and then yelled for Zero, who quickly emerged from his room not knowing what was happening, but when he saw the commotion and a ready-to-fight blonde, he lunged forward and grabbed the hot head. Oh, you're dead, icy hot. Me. You're the one dead. What did you do to Midoriya? He left here a wreck. You use him like you do everyone else. Katsuki's eyes were burning now with rage. You have no goddamn idea what happened. It was a misunderstanding, and it's between him and I, not you, UBSE. Kirishima and Zero were holding the two back as they kept trying to break free. The hell, it's not my business. He's my best friend. I told him to stay away from you. You're incapable of real feelings, Shoto spat. Katsuki's face was twitching with anger, his fist burning for contact with the male in front of him, talking a best friend. Don't make me laugh, you self-righteous prick. Where the F were you when he was having a nervous breakdown in his room over a project, huh? Or when he was falling apart because some PP talked down to him and he didn't know how to defend himself? Where the hell were you? He's growing up, so manly dude, so manly, Kirishima said, wiping a fake tear. Zero eyed his friend, then looked over at Katsuki, then back at the redhead. But Mito won't even talk to him now, the raven-eyed male said. Kirishima frowned and sighed. Yeah, I know bro, but I think he will. He just needs a push in the right direction when he gets back. The redhead grinned, making Zero PP a brow in wonder. It was Sunday night. Katsuki was laying on his bed, fingers laced behind his head, earbuds in, once again party tonight playing, his mind on Emerald. 2 days, it's been 2 days and the fiery blonde is completely twisted up inside. Sleep has been next to impossible. He's more aggressive than normal. He's tired, frustrated, and dare he say a bit heartbroken. He lays there with his mind working overtime. He had tried to do the right thing the other night and now it felt like he was paying for it. If it had been anyone else who had stumbled into his room that night, he wouldn't have given 2 𝗧𝗟𝗧𝗟, he would have went with it. So why hadn't he done the same with that little 𝗧𝗟𝗘, he wonders. But down deep he already knows why. He didn't, because Izuku Midoriya was different. He had known that from the day he laid eyes on him, and for once in the fiery blonde's life he didn't want to F things up by rushing into things. He wanted to take his time with the greenet and maybe do it right for a change, but now he wonders if all that is messed the F up anyway. This is why he never wanted to fall for anyone. Love was hard, love was complicated. Love meant being valuable and weak, 2 things he was not, except that's how he was feeling right now. He let out a frustrated growl. This little he had flipped him upside down, messed his mind and his feelings up in a matter of goddamn weeks. He would have never thought it possible. In fact, if you would have said it to him a few months ago, he would have laughed in your face and told you to F off because no way could the great Katsuki Bakugo be taken down by anything, anything. Especially not Emerald Eyes and Freckles, but here Fing was laying here a completely fed up inside disaster, with his goddamn feelings flying all over the place. Katsuki likes control, he likes to be in control, especially over how he feels, but this Fing Emerald Typhoon that has slammed into him has changed that. He can't control these goddamn feelings, and any wall the blonde had put up so that he could maintain that control was now being breached by the waves of this crashing typhoon. He groans, picking up his phone, looking at the time. It's after 10 p.m. His fingers dance over the keys. He's thought about texting that little world-flipping nerd 100 times, but he doesn't want to talk about this SHT over a screen. He wants to see those demon emerald gems and make sure Fing understands every demon word he's saying. He groans again, slamming his arm over his eyes. Maybe he should just say F it all together and forget it, just go back to the way he was and forget this greenet haunting him, go back to Fing around with whoever whenever and not worry about all this SHT that's cluttering up his every thought. Feelings blow, and right now he would love nothing more than to get SHT face drunk and forget them. As this thought dances in the corner of his mind as if there's a knock on his door. He assumed it was Kirishima who was supposed to come by and grab notes for tomorrow, so he yells that the door is open without making a move. The door opens and a figure enters. The blonde only has a dim light lit, his arm still over his eyes. He pulls his earbuds out, speaking. The notes are on my desk, shitty hair, take them and leave. He snaps but gets no reply. He feels the weight of his bed shift and he knows someone is hovering over him. For half a second his heart jumps in his chest and he wonders or hopes even that maybe, just maybe, that little SHT nerd has come back. He moves his arm swiftly, ruby eyes snapping upward. His face turns into disappointment and anger when he sees it's not who he had hoped for but that shitty extra Cammy who was looming over him in nothing but her jeans and a BR, clearly intoxicated, trying to purr down at him. Katsuki, hi babe, I thought we could play, she whispers as she runs manicured nails over his chest. He stares at her. Old him, not even old him, less than 2 months ago him would have let her have her way without another thought. But this isn't 2 months ago him, this is now him that has been taken over by a demon green force, and all he can see when he looks at this extra now is pain-filled emerald eyes. That thought he had had only moments before about Fing around with whoever and forgetting that little SHT are out the window. She makes a move to kiss him and the blonde turns his face, growling at her. Get out. What? He pushes her from him and stands quickly. You Fing heard me, I said get out. I never invited you in here in the first place, he snaps. She sits up staring at him in shock. What's with you this year? Is it seriously that little green-haired loser? Katsuki spins around, anger rolling off his actions as he closes the gap towering over her. If she had been a guy, she'd have a fist in her face. Watch what you Fing say, like I said, get the F out, I won't say it again, he snarls, his voice low in his throat. She gets the hint, seeing anger in ruby eyes. She grabs her shirt and flies out the door as he slams it behind her. He throws himself back on his bed. F feelings, but F having them for anyone else. Emerald had worked its way into a blonde's VNs and now he was bleeding only green. Monday morning Izuku was packing his bag to head back to college. He didn't have any classes on Mondays so he could leave when he wanted. He had spent the weekend thinking about everything that had happened plus everything his mother had said. Honestly, he still wasn't sure what to think at this point. Maybe he should let Katsuki say what he wanted even if it was something the greenet didn't want to hear. That thought made his stomach turn with anxiety. He just didn't know if his heart could handle the possible words of rejection he was sure was on the blonde's tongue. He sighed, throwing his bag over his shoulder and heading downstairs. All set to go, his mom asked with a smile, standing in the living room once he had made his way down. He smiled and nodded at her. And I'm sorry I didn't spend much time with you. I know it was like I was here, but I wasn't, he said softly. It's okay, honey, I know you had a lot on your mind. This is your safe place to fall whenever you need it, she told him as she wrapped her son in a tight hug. When she pulled away, she looked into deeper emerald than her own. Izuku, remember, life is full of risk, sometimes they fall through, but sometimes they pay off in a big way. You'll never know if you don't take them and follow through. You took a risk the other night, one that you're positive fell through, but you can't be sure of that because you didn't see it to the end. Be brave, let him explain, and then maybe next time I see you you'll have the college quarterback with you. She grinned at her son. Izuku's face flushed crimson as he rolled his eyes at her. I don't really think so, Mom. But I hear what you're saying, I'll think about it. I love you, I'll text you when I'm back at school. He told her with one last hug as he headed out the door. 2 hours away, Katsuki and Kirishima were walking down. But I think can't be, and that's so frustrating. Katsuki said as he slammed both his hands on either side of the greenet, trapping him. Izuku jumped, his eyes even wider than before as his mind raced to try and keep up with what the blonde was saying. What was he saying exactly? Was he mad at him? He wasn't sure how to read the blonde at the moment. Every word, every movement was so intense it felt like you could touch it. The greenet started to shake slightly as Katsuki towered over him, ruby eyes burning as they bore into emeralds. Katsuki noticed. A slight smirk made its way to his face. He kept his fiery gaze locked. "Do I scare you?" he said in a low tone laced with something Izuku was desperate to place. Did he scare him? Izuku thought, maybe, but not in a bad way. In a I want to see what happens next kind of way, Izuku decided. Emerald eyes forced themselves to stay on rubies. "And no Kaken," he whispered. Katsuki rose a brow then chuckled low in his throat. "You standing here trembling says otherwise, and I probably think should scare you." Izuku's heart was beating so loud he was sure Katsuki could hear it, and he probably would have been able to if his heart wasn't beating just as loud. How do you know I'm trembling out of fear?" "And maybe it's something else," Izuku said. Katsuki stilled his eyes, flashing with something at the words. That electric current was back running through his veins. There you go again, sending feelings rushing through me like I've never experienced. Tell me, Deku, tell me, how do you do it? And who gave you permission to wreck me like this?" Izuku tried to answer. I'm not sure what you... He was cut off once again as Katsuki leaned into his space. "And another thing, you little 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝗧𝗟𝗘, I'm only going to say this once. I may not scare you, but you scare the F out of me," he whispered. Emerald eyes shot wide. "WhatIf?" Katsuki chuckled from his throat, sending a chill down a fair-skinned spine. "You're dangerous, Freckles, so goddamn dangerous to a guy like me who wanted nothing to do with emotions or feelings. You have no idea the power you hold, and it drives me crazy. I have never been scared of anything in my in life, but I'm scared of how I feel about you, of how you make me feel, and the fact that I can't control it. You've been running all over my soul for weeks now. I felt weak this weekend, lost, all I wanted was you. I spent years not giving a damn about anyone's feelings, not needing anyone until now, until Emerald Eyes and Freckles, damn it. You have crawled under my skin and seeped into my blood, and I can't get you out. And if I don't even want to." Izuku's mind was racing as he frantically searched the blonde's face. Was he saying what he thinks he is? New way. Izuku opened his mouth to say something before Katsuki started again, as he stepped away, running a hand through his hair. "Oh, and how dare you stand in my room with tears in those dim and gorgeous eyes that have no business crying and say that you knew someone like me wouldn't want someone like you? And how could you actually even believe that when it's me Deku, who thinks someone like me has no right to be with someone like you?" Izuku shook his head in disbelief, taking a step forward finally. "What? How could you see it that way? Kaken is amazing. And have you seen you? What would you possibly want with a nerdy Deku?" Katsuki closed the space, stepping back into the greenet space. "First of all, I'm the only one allowed to call you Deku. Second, what the F did I tell you about making nerdy sound like a bad thing, huh? It's part of who you are, and in case you haven't noticed, I like who you are. You're smart and funny, and goddammit, that shy thing you got going on is killer on me, nerd. And yeah, I've seen me, but I've seen you too. You captivated me, damn it. The minute you stepped out of Icy Hot's Jeep, you stole my attention and have yet to give it the F back. Everything about you intrigues me. I want to know everything about you. I'm dying to know what makes you tick, nerd." Katsuki was practically breathing as he rambled everything in his head. Izuku stood shocked at what he was hearing. He blinked up at the blonde. Was this a dream? Felt like one, if it was no one wake him up, ever. There was a few beats of silence as one stared at the other. Kaken. What exactly are you saying here with all this? Izuku finally asked with a small shaky voice. Katsuki stared down at him, seeing those emerald eyes begging for an answer that the blonde couldn't believe he didn't already have. Katsuki chuckled again as he moved forward once again, backing a greenet to the wall. He caged him again. For someone so DMN smart, you are dense as F right now, Deku. You don't see it. You don't see the way I look at you, you didn't hear everything I said just now. Fine, I'll spell it out for you. You have me tripping all over my own DMN feet and falling face first into you. I'm drowning in an emerald green typhoon and I'm ready to get taken the F under. I'm falling for you, and if it feels like this at the start, I can't even imagine how it's going to feel later, and as scary as that is for me, I can honestly say I never wanted anything more. But Freckles, be sure I'm what you want, because once you say you do, I'm going all in, and anything I've held back for you I'm going to give into. I'm going to allow myself to be caught up in your rapture, and I'm going to be dim and sure that you get just as swept up in mine, because I'm intense and everything I do is that way. Loving will be no different. Izuku bit his lip. Oh God, was this real? I do want you. I'm falling for you too. And yeah, it's scary for me too because you make me feel things I never have either. But I'm sure, and Kaken, I like you intense. He said the last part sheepishly as he flushed, looking into pricing rubies. Katsuki smirked, lowering his head, running his thumb over a freckled cheek. Then you better kiss me again, and Deku, if you run again, I'll chase you the F down and tackle you in the demon hallway. Izuku laughed softly before he wrapped his arms blonde's neck, standing on his tiptoes, catching the blonde's lips in his. The kiss was soft at first, until Katsuki, true to his word, intensified it. He wrapped Izuku tightly in his arms, pulling him as close as he could get him, tongue sweeping his bottom lip, getting access immediately. He slid his tongue in, exploring every inch of his mouth, his cheeks, his teeth, his tongue. Those electric sparks were back, rippling down his spine, but this time igniting something in his chest, making it flame to life. His grip tightened and Izuku let out a soft whimper, and Christ almighty, that's all it took to make Katsuki feel like sparks were flying all over his skin. He's kissed a lot of extras in his life, but nothing ever felt like this. This nerd had more superpowers than he realized. They broke for air because they had to, even though Katsuki wouldn't have minded just passing the F out if it meant keeping that mouth on his. Izuku tinted pink as he looked up at the fiery blonde. A soft giggle filling the room that made Katsuki's heart skip. I guess this means you weren't going to reject me Friday. Katsuki rolled his eyes, still holding him close. F no, if you had just let me explain you would have known that. B but you stopped me. I thought for sure that's what you meant. You keep running off with the wrong. The university hallway to their next class. The blonde's mind twisting still like it had been all weekend. It was finally Monday. He knew that little SHT would be back sometime today, he just wasn't sure when. Suddenly a redhead broke his consternation. Bakubro. Holy it's you, man. Katsuki turned to see Kirishima looking at something on the wall outside the photography classroom. He furrowed his brow, not knowing what the hell this extra was talking about. He moved closer to inspect what was on the wall. His breath caught in his chest when he saw what it was. He knew instantly whose work it was. There on full display as the best and top-graded project of the class was a photo Izuku must have taken that night Katsuki had brought him to the clearing on the ridge. It was of Katsuki. He wasn't looking at the camera, he was looking up with a big smile on his features. The stars in bright full view all around him in the background. He remembers exactly when he had smiled like that. It was when the greenet was joking about how he'd one day tell everyone that Katsuki Bakugo had taken him to his hiding place when he was a famous footballer player. Katsuki was caught completely off guard right now, having no idea the picture had even been taken, that little SHT was just that good. And as if this wasn't enough, what really was making the blonde feel like his demon heart might jump right the F out of his chest right here in the hallway was the title of the photo. Under the appealing print it read, "My hero." There was a heart tripping so hard against the blonde's ribs it's all he could hear, and FFF were these tears wanting to fall. Kirishima studied his friend next to him, who he could see was stunned into silence with tears brimming, both things he never thought he'd be witnessing. He smiled huge. The redhead decided something standing there. Izuku Midoriya was magic. "You okay bro? Mido's work man, it's something huh?" The redhead said softly. Yeah, he was definitely something, Katsuki thought. Him and his work that had way more to do with than just the photo on the wall, his work that was weaving in and out of every fiber of the blonde's being, ripping his emotions to the surface without even trying. Izuku Midoriya, Freckles, has superpowers he wasn't even aware of. Diminured. Yeah, something. Katsuki finally said, taking out his phone and snapping a picture of the photo. A few hours later, it was finally the end of the day. The longest day in existence, Katsuki thought as he and Kirishima walked up the sidewalk to the dorm. He had barely been able to focus on his classes, no scratch that, he hadn't been able to focus at all corners of his mind on an emerald-eyed little HT who had no idea what he was doing to the fiery blonde. Hell, football practice had even been a struggle, and that never happened. It was all so frustrating. Suddenly his eyes landed on a black Jeep in the parking lot, making him halt his steps completely. His heart flipping in his chest. Kirishima stopped looking back at his bro when he unexpectedly stopped. Ro's red eyes followed his gaze, then he realized Shoto's Jeep was back, meaning Izuku was too. The redhead and Katsuki exchanged looks, and without another word the blonde's pace picked up, making his way up the walk with a mission. Kirishima yelled after him, taking off right on his heels. Wait, you can't just go slamming on his door again. Katsuki spun around looking at his friend. What? Why the F not? Kirishima rolled his eyes. Because that didn't work last time, did it? Need a better plan than that. Mido is skittish. If you go beating away at the door, you might scare him off even if he wants to talk to you. If he knows you're trying again, he might hide because he's nervous. Katsuki folded his arms over his chest, eyeing his friend. Then what do you suggest? Because I'm ready to tackle his, but as soon as he steps foot out the demon door, Kirishima chuckled, actually knowing it was probably exactly what he'd do. No man, just no. But come on, I think I have an idea. Katsuki raised a brow but followed the redhead inside the dorm. When they reached their floor, they walked towards Izuku's room, but as they got to it, Kirishima pushed Katsuki to the wall beside the door so he wasn't in front of it. Katsuki was getting ready to protest till the redhead put a hand over the blonde's mouth, putting his finger to his own lips, signaling the blonde to be quiet. Katsuki rolled his eyes but did what he was told. Kirishima opened his backpack and pulled out a random paper, then knocked on the greenet's door. Yo Midobro. I see you're back, and man, I'm freaking happy to see that, dude, because I really need your help, man. I'm panicking out here. I got this math paper due and I have no idea what I'm doing, bro, he called through the door. Kiri chewed his lip for a minute. He felt bad about lying to the greenet, but if this paid off it would be worth it. Izuku was sitting on his bed reading when he heard the redhead's call. He scrunched his face, but then smiled. He missed the voice of the energetic Kirishima, and he had promised he'd talk to him when he got back. The greenet made his way to the door, opening it a crack like always, peering out at a grinning redhead. Mido. So happy to see you, bro. It was true. Kirishima was attached already. Another reason he really wanted this relationship to take off. Izuku smiled, opening the door wider. Hi, Kirishima. Kirishima smiled. Hi, little bro, and I'm sorry, but this has to be done, the redhead said. Izuku furrowed his brow. Huh. Before Izuku could say or do any more, Kirishima grabbed Katsuki's wrist and pulled him in front of the door, shoving him inside before the greenet could shut it. Kirishima stood blocking the door in case the nervous greenet tried to make a run for it. Good luck, bros, Kiri said as he leaned in, grabbing the handle, pulling the door closed quickly. Izuku went wide-eyed as he slowly backed up, his heart beating 100 miles an hour in his chest. Katsuki locked onto the emerald orbs that he'd been dying to see all DMN weekend. He let his black backpack slide off his shoulder at the door as he took steps toward the greenet, who looked like a deer caught in headlights, his own heart hammering against his ribs. He ran a hand through blonde spikes as he let out a small laugh as he began to speak. Well, look who's back finally. You think you can just stroll into my room, kiss me like that, flip my goddamn world upside down, mess with my head, drag my emotions up from hell where they belong, then Fing leave without a diamond word, without letting me say anything, leaving me here to twist inside the F out all weekend while you run and hide. Is that what you think, Freckles, huh? Katsuki asked, his eyes burning with intensity as he backed a shocked 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐸𝐴 to the wall. Izuku looked up at the fiery blonde, his eyes wide, not knowing exactly how to respond. Kaken. Katsuki cut him off. Do you have any idea what you've done to me, nerd? You have single-handedly somehow worked your way into every DMN thought in my head. I actually feel Fing crazy, do you know that, Freckles? I never wanted anything to Fing do with feelings, but now you have mine flying the F all over the goddamn place. Ever since the day you waltzed onto campus with those demon emerald eyes, I haven't Fing been the same. You make me question everything about myself that I thought I had on lockdown. I almost want to be set off at you for it. Ideas. I stopped you because you were drunk as F, and I wanted to be sure you knew what you wanted. Because, damn it, Deku, I'm trying really hard to do things differently with you. I don't want to rush anything. I want to take you out on dates. I want to walk you to class every day like some sappy lovesick teenager. I want to Fing swoon you, sweep your nerdy butt off your feet. I want you to come to my football games, build this thing we got going the way we should. I didn't want to F things up with you. Izuku felt tears burning his eyes at the blonde's words. He can't believe he missed all the signs, and damn it, he could have spent the weekend here like this instead of home hiding. Katsuki sighed as he looked into emotional emeralds. Look, Freckles, I don't have much or any experience with a real relationship either. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Fing mess sometimes when it comes to feelings and knowing how to deal with them. But I'm more than willing to try this SHT with you. I want to make this thing work and see where it takes us. I never Fing thought I'd say that in a million years. He laughed the last part. Izuku flashed a smile. Trip. I want that too, all of it. Katsuki pushed a curl back, leaning down. What have you done to me, huh? He whispered against Izuku's lips. I dunno, but God, I hope I keep doing it. Izuku whispered back. Katsuki smirked against his mouth, nipping the 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐴's lips before he kissed him again softly this time. When they parted for air, Izuku blushed slightly, taking Katsuki's hand, leading him to his bed so they could sit. Izuku linked their fingers as he looked down at the blonde's large hand holding his, still unable to believe this was real. There was something knocking in the back of his mind though. Katsuki noticed. What? He asked as he hooked his index finger under the 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐴's chin, pulling it gently so he was looking at him. Izuku tinted crimson. Does this mean just me? You're with just me now, right? Because I won't share, Kaken, Izuku said with courage bouncing through him. Katsuki raised a brow with a smirk, letting out a laugh. Well, HT, look at you, Freckles, laying demands on me already, huh? Sassy. Izuku looked up at him with a slight grin. I'm using my voice. Didn't you teach me that? Katsuki's heart flipped in his chest. Yeah, I Fing did. And I like it. Don't stop. And yes, it means only you. You don't have to worry about sharing. I'd be surprised if you didn't worry about it though. I know what you've heard, especially from Icy Hot. But I'm serious when I say that I want SHT to be different with you. Stick around, Freckles. I'll prove it. But the same goes for you, nerd. I won't share you either. I'm jealous as F when it comes to you. So that means no more flirting with dunce or round face, or the purple freak. Izuku looked at him, laughing softly. You have no worries there, Kaken, and I never flirted with any of them. I'm just friendly. And mine. Katsuki smirked with a growl, pulling the 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐴 into a hug. Izuku tinted pink, giggling. Yes, yours, he said into his shoulder, taking in the blonde's heavenly scent. Oh, one more thing, Katsuki said as he pulled his phone from his pocket. Izuku titled his head in wonder as Katsuki flipped his phone around, showing the photo project picture. Izuku flamed crimson. Oh my God, you saw that? Katsuki chuckled. Yeah, I saw it. It's hanging in the hallway. You got the highest grade in the class, nerd. I was proud as hell and almost knocked off my feet. I didn't even know you took that picture, you sneaky little SHT. And I will keep being your hero if you let me. Emerald and Ruby locked as Izuku smiled softly. I meant it, you know, the title. And I would love that, Kaken. Katsuki's heart tripped again. Truth was, maybe this nerd could be his hero too, saving him from himself. All you gotta do is run to me, not from me. And I'll save you every DM in time, he told the greenet, meaning every word. A tear slipped from the greenet that Katsuki wiped away. I will, you can count on it, Katsuki kissed his forehead. He wanted to protect this little greenet from anything that he was scared of. He would make sure to do that, he was sure of it. The two spent the next few hours talking about anything and everything. It was well after dark before Katsuki saw sleepy emerald eyes. He and Izuku were laying down, both on their sides facing each other as they talked. Katsuki was feeling sleep pulling at him too. I hate too, but I'm going to head back to my room. You look tired as F and I'm beat too, Katsuki whispered. A frown tugged at the greenet. Why can stay if you want, Kaken, Izuku said softly. Katsuki thought about it for a minute. He really wanted to. He didn't want to leave this little SHT he had spent the weekend twisted up over. Could he just lay there and sleep without crossing any lines too quickly? Probably, but he was going to do this right, even this SHT. He leaned over and kissed Izuku slowly. Eventually I will, or you with me. But for tonight, I'm going to go back to my room and crash hard because some emerald-eyed heart-stealing SHT kept me up all DMin weekend, and then tomorrow morning I'm going to come to your room and walk your cute butt to every class you have, Katsuki said with a smile making the greenet's heart flutter. So come on and walk me to the door. Izuku stood as Katsuki gathered his shoes and his backpack. He opened the greenet's door, stepping out into the hall. Izuku leaned against his door frame looking up at the blonde who he couldn't believe was his. Katsuki turned and wrapped a strong arm around Izuku, pulling the greenet close, leaning down, kissing him deeply, the two getting lost in each other right in the hallway until a redhead's voice rang out. Ah yeah. I knew it, brothers, ha. Yeah man, this is awesome. Kirishima yelled, walking up to the two. Katsuki rolled his eyes with a smirk as Izuku giggled, tinted crimson as he hugged the now his blonde. The happy redhead threw his arm around the greenet's neck with a grin as he looked at his blonde bro. So, I'm guessing this means you two are official, yeah? Katsuki eyed him with a slight scoff. Yes, you nosy effer. Now get your arm off him before I break it, Izuku giggled as Kirishima snickered. Yup, it's official all right. Kiri grinned. Katsuki rolled his eyes again, grabbing Izuku, kissing him one more time before he pulled back. Kirishima smiled at the sight. Good thing I shoved you in there, huh? Izuku laughed softly. Actually, if Kaken would have just knocked, I would have let him in. I had already decided that when I got back. Katsuki shot daggers at a redhead. I told you. Kirishima threw his hands up. Hey bro, my way worked too. Izuku giggled at the two. Yes, Kirishima, it did, he said with a soft smile, making the redhead grin. Katsuki glared at his friend. Can I finish saying goodnight to my boyfriend, or you gonna hover over all night, shitty hair? Kirishima pet a brow with a smile. Boyfriend? Katsuki never used the term. Wow, hell yeah, it was official. He thought happily. Yeah, good night, Mido. See you tomorrow, man. Izuku waved as the redhead jogged backwards down the hall. Night, Kirishima. Thanks for giving Kaken a shove. He grinned, making the redhead laugh with a thumbs up. No problem, bro. I got you, dude. He called before he disappeared into his room. Izuku met the blonde's gaze as Katsuki smirked, pulling him close one more time. Don't encourage him, Izuku giggled. He's fun. I like him a lot. Katsuki pet a brow with a playful growl. Not too much, nerd, remember what I told you. Izuku giggled again. And I told you have no worries, I only have eyes for a blonde-haired quarterback, Katsuki grinned. DMN right, Katsuki said, chasing a kiss. What was it he said about sleeping in his own room? He thought getting caught up in the little nerd clung to him, kissing him like there was no tomorrow. Stupid idea, Katsuki. Stupid. Izuku pulled away finally, biting his bottom lip, looking up a blush tinting Freckles. Good night, Kaken. Good night, Deku, Katsuki said gently as he backed up down the hall, not wanting to take tired eyes off the greenet leaning on the wall, smiling softly at him. If this was what love looked and felt like, he was ready to free fall right into the emerald rapture 5 doors down.